On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, the time has come. Ordeal Call 2 id pregame, plus some other news and stuff, your beautiful mail, and a few other things, like following up on the White Day event. Hello, I am one of your hosts, Omega. With me, as always, is Lucky, and I don't have any cute intros this week because I was literally working right up to before we got into this to get all the show notes ready. So, no time to think of funny joke, haha.
No funny joke. It is only time for intro. And I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka an ending that feels right. And while we here at Studio Mega like to bring you the latest FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for the JP&E versions of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should properly define their love of evil women.
Yeah, I think I said that as an aside on stream because I saw a funny tweet, but there was quite a lot of discussion about it in our Discord.
Well, you said something, and then, I saw something again, and that, seeing something twice makes me... Oh, okay. That freaked me the fuck out. Seeing something twice made me think about it. And then once I thought about it, I was like, I have to share these thoughts. And so I shared them. They made other people have thoughts. And thus, discussion was born.
The circle of discourse.
Anyway, no, I got freaked out because Clair Obscure does this really thing that I do love, where he does a fixed camera perspective. But sometimes that means you get funny things happen where accidentally, fucking Mael's head, takes up half the fucking screen. And suddenly you're just like, oh!
Yeah, I think I remember a few of those jump scares. Quote-unquote jump scares, where you're just, minding your own business and you're just like, camera. And yes, if you didn't see that somewhere else, because I think you've mentioned it a couple of places, Lucky is playing Clair Obscure, Expedition 33. So we'll be talking about that later as well, in the What's Up Zone.
The What's Up Zone.
Which is the thing we do when we're done talking about FGO for the day, which usually takes us, depending on things, 1 to 2 hours. Then we spend another 1 to 2 hours talking about other stuff. I am reminded, though, I usually say this on our pregame episodes, but I didn't yet. I do want to double down on the spoiler warning as usual. I will give you an off-ramp when it comes up, but we will be discussing a story chapter that's going to release in under a week. So if you want to go in, completely fresh, make sure to dip out of that when it hits. Next, I say that this episode is brought to you by all of our wonderful and beautiful listeners, but especially our wonderful and beautiful patrons. More on that later, at the end of the show. Oh, yes, no, chat's, speaking of our patrons, some of them are live with us in chat right now, talking about, so for about 3 hours next week, yeah, it's gonna be the first show after a story chapter, so, yeah, usually.
We will do our best to make proper notes so we can, keep our thoughts in order.
Yeah, spoilers, this story chapter is long, so that will probably be important to keep abreast of everything. Sorry, it's my turn to be confused. I may have logged into a certain award-winning MMO because there's going to be a point later in a mailbag, and I am getting ahead of myself, and one of my retainers just handed me a level 100 gunblade. Where do you guys get this shit?
Internet?
Yeah, no, probably. I mean, I don't actually know how the market board and the summoning bell, the network works anywhere in Eorzea. Anyway, all that aside, it's time to go through our regular show business, starting with checking with everybody's favorite kohai, Mesh.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because it's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, Wake the Fuck Up for pro tips. I have 2 for you this week. 1, terrible news, sire! It's daylight saving time this weekend. It's spring forward. So this means that your login time for FGO is going to go back to 12 EST 9 Pacific Standard Time, because that's how the servers in Japan, which do not alter the internal server time based around daylight savings, will work. Also, spring forward, you lose it an hour. It's going to fuck with everybody's sleep schedules, because it's awful and we hate it. But next, to keep everybody abreast, Kalia Broadcasting will be the evening of the 10th, 3/10. So that's Tuesday night, which means that the story drop will occur, morning of the 11th. So everybody keep that in mind. No records, no evils after that. I mean, I guess technically you should note that we both cleared the event, but it's a pretty simple story to clear, so we move on. Putting down my bottle of water there. The next phase is, did you finish your master missions? This week, you got to defeat 3 chaotic servants, 3 good servants, defeat 15 enemies with the human attribute, And you get 50 of each drop. Candies, jellies, macarons. So do the event, or else.
Or else.
And that means we move into, swiftly, Skelligrams, of which we have a couple.
Every time you say that, I always just imagine Skeletor just raising his arms and being like, yeah.
That is the voice I do when I say Skelligrams. Which also is like an ancient joke, honestly, now that I think about it. It's a reference to the Apocrypha anime when it was new, because Shishigo received news via skeleton hands writing, which is pretty baller. Still. I even have a gif of it still linked in our show notes. Now please hold, because I'm rubbing my eyes, therefore I cannot see what I've written in the show notes. I do not possess sight beyond sight. But, now that I've finished that, I'll scooch a little closer to my microphone, and say, first of all, Ordeal Call 2 pre-release campaign got some extra missions on the 3rd. Your deadline to get them is the 20th, so there's a new accrued login bonus for up to 5 St. Courts. There's also more missions based around MSQ, clearing main story through Ordeal Call 1. That'll get you 6 St. Courts, 5 Leyline Stones, and a couple of other things like EXPs. There's also some limited time master missions to give you 4 St. Courts total for challenging and for clearing 1 Ogamari quest. And also, if you need get any work done before the story drop, we've got double suck and half AP embers until 310. So until the story drops. So keep all that in mind. Also, the Chivalrous Montjoy has a free quest backup summon. Who could have guessed? It's like a thing that they're doing. Anyway, it's Sigurd. Starting the 4th, ending the 17th. Technically, it's Sigurd and Rama, but yeah, it's single target sabers. I am pretty sure several people in our community did predict Sigurd. Because, you know, if you're looking for a unit who can do a lot of single target damage to Lancers, perhaps some of whom might be dragons, it's definitely the Sigurd. Additionally, we do actually have a little bit of JP news. Not a lot, but a little. And that is that CBC, Call the Boys Collection, aka White Day, is coming to JP on the 11th, JP time. And the bonus gang's all French, so look out for that, I guess. What does this mean exactly? But it's like Sanson, Napoleon, Jekyll Hyde, Phantom, actually, and Jacques de Molay, so who the flip knows? Some people are wondering if it might be Saber Jacques, could be a costume for Napoleon, who knows? But it's something. I'm not gonna even dignify that clueless at the response. But yes, it's coming up. We'll find out more, I'm sure, both before it drops and then as it drops in JP. But yeah, it's up and coming, and you know, there's a handful of servants in it, and that could truly mean anything with White Day.
No, it is exciting. We will see.
Yeah, like I said, you know, it could just straight up be that you know, we get a costume for Napoleon, or it could be a brand new servant. You never know. Also, I apologize. My editing will take care of most of it, but if you hear me pausing a lot or breaking my thought, it's because I'm drinking a lot of water because it's freaking hot during the day.
It's hot.
But thus ends the news.
And with the news thusly ended, it is time for this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, a segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. Let's do one last refresh of the page just to make sure that we got everybody. And we have five lovely comments, and we will get through them all. Starting at the top with Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, Dear Lucky Omega, no questions this week, just sending good vibes, wah 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 wah, and wishing you well, keep up the great work. P.S. Don't forget your PvP ladder. Oh, I guess it's that time, huh?
Yep. I'm queued in Daily Frontlines literally right now.
I should probably do that too. Well, thus reminded, we'll have to get on that. I'm pretty sure I haven't really done much of any PvP, but since we're not hearing necessarily we're not on the crunch time yet, but more I do now, the less I'll panic later.
Yeah, I as usual, I got a head start like right when the new season started because it was like, all right, we don't want to be crunched for the next season. So I am at like 15. But I think it's oh god, I've completely blanked on what the name of it is called. The one Udo. Thank you 14 for telling me, but yeah, the mount is a one Udo, which is like pretty cool, so we'll want a little bit of that.
I do want a bit of that.
And we are when is the Fan Fest? Is it this month or next month?
I'm
pretty sure it should be soon.
Yes, it is soon. This is either this month or next month. Let's see, 2026 FF Fan Fest April in Anaheim.
April in Anaheim. All right.
Yeah, April
Because we're
24th.
probably due for some teasy bops about the next X Pack.
Like I said, it is my consideration. We'll be getting our teaser at the US Fan Fest.
Like, we still got a ways to go, but we are on patch 7.45, so we usually only go to 6, right?
6 is probably as far as we're going. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would
Maybe 7 with like how long this is going, but we don't know.
it's probably time to start the press release.
But moving on as I log into 14 to queue up for Frontlines myself. This next one comes from Dodgy Dave, who says, "Good evening, Jits. Hope all is well. I happen to be lucky enough to be traveling to Japan in May and was curious what you two would do on a similar trip. I'll be seeing Kyoto, Osaka, and Tokyo. Definitely a bit expensive, but it's always been a dream of mine." Oh, I'm right with you there, brother. If I, had the money and time to go to Japan, I'd probably focus on Kyoto and visit a lot of historical sites like shrines, temples, and castles. Like, just go see them all. Like, go see historical sites of battles and whatnot. I was like, I would, definitely visit, Tokyo and stuff, but, I don't necessarily need the big city vibes. I'd probably go just to say I went to, to Akihabara, but that's probably about it.
That's just
Oh,
what I was
that'd be
thinking, yeah.
It's otherwise I'd want to be out there, in the Jap and, going seeing heritage sites, specific J sites. Also, probably want to do a hot spring trip. Might need a couple trips of Japan to get everything I want done there, but no, there's a lot of Japan I want to see, but I most specifically want to see. Oh, was there a ready check? There was a ready check. My bad. I'm ready. Don't worry.
But yes, there's a lot of positions in Japan to see.
Yeah. Yes, no, but I would definitely start in Kyoto and make my way around. I don't have a particular desire to see Osaka. Not really. I don't know why.
I mean, there's probably some classic things there. People on our Patreon chat's talking about castles, and it'd be like, yeah, I'd probably want to see a handful of castles.
But if we have no other thoughts on that, we can keep on moving. Next one comes from the Tyrant King, who's going to need copious amounts of caffeine and cardboard crack to get through the next few weeks at work. That sounds bad. Be careful of your wallet. Careful.
Just make sure that work is refilling your wallet faster than you're using it.
Exactly. But they say, question. Hey guys, with Marie Alter coming soon. What servant would you like to see an altar form of? Also, any JPVAs you would like to see in FGO that hasn't had a chance yet? My personal pick for this is Suzuko Memori. Excuse me. Anyway, that's it for me. Sending good vibes your way. Wah, 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening. I still think at the top of my list is probably a Boudica altar. Give me that Avenger. Make her, the personification of, all that Roman hate instead of just being, the good girl that she is. It's kind of, the same idea we had with, Marie Alter all those years, and that came to fruition eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Is there anyone else particular in my altar? Technically, this is a fucking cop-out, but I still want my Lancer Altar Summer.
I mean, true, but yeah, I'm not an expert on the story, but I feel like I shouldn't comment too much because I've seen some things in the upcoming story chapter, but also I'm definitely, I'm like, all right, you. I mean, I guess I will say because it is technically an altar, but Alcides is getting a lot of press. That said, also the most interesting part of that was before the altering actually happened, which was the just Archer Herc chillin'. He seemed like a cool guy. He glowed.
Bro's we've seen him in two Holy Grail Wars, and both times he got fucking filled with Grail mud. Son of a bitch. Well, not Grail mud. The first time was just the Berserker thing. Second time was with actual Grail mud. Boy has been altered twice. Because in Fate's Day Night, they used the Berserker modifier on Herc.
Yeah, I remember the rules that originally the idea is when summoning, you could pick whether or not you would summon more Madness Enhancement, or you would trade Sanity for extra parameters. Oh shit, I'm getting Black Mage sucked.
They dropped all the fucking meteors right there. Jesus. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was hit by that. I got. Sorry, my brain tried to form a rhyme for slurped and spanked, but that's how bad it was, Chad. I can't even rhyme.
For context, we're in Frontlines right now, and what the enemy team did immediately was that they sucked us all into a big old group, with several Dark Knights, then everyone tried to drop meteors on us.
Yeah, a huge Dark Knight comet, wombo. Alright, I'm gonna juice up and start casting spells.
We love casting spells.
Honestly, I will say this. Altering is a, concept that felt very critical early in Fate, and FGO played with a little bit, and then hasn't been as prominent, but occasionally they remember it and do some fun stuff. But I think to the original point, a Dark Boudica was definitely, high on our lists.
Trying to think if there's anyone else that I'm particularly vibing for, but unfortunately I don't think I have anyone. So if we don't have any more thoughts on that, we'll move...
There are 5 Bombites out here. Okay, they're leaving, but still, Jesus.
One of them was mine. I saw a Bahamut party, I was like, shit, I gotta get in that.
Oh my god, they're slurping again. Goodbye.
Anyway, we're moving swiftly on to, last but not least, it's Agent 418 who says, hello, Lucky Omega. Have a good weekend, y'all. Thank you. We're gonna need it. We're getting a little creamed right now. Let's see here. Scores is Adders 140, Flames 125, and us, the Maelstrom, 67.
Yeah, we're getting our ass cooked a little bit. But also,
my ass is currently well done, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Yellow's... I hope Blue had fun, because Yellow has all the points.
Oh, that is actually a design we have seen and probably do want. But yeah, so Robin talking about the Benny Enman altar, probably based on the design from LB7, which was very good.
Yeah, actually, that was to remind myself, that was a half-formed thought because I got, sucked into a meteor. But yes, that's one of the things I was thinking of where LB7 was very big on the themes of the altering process and stuff like that. Actually had some new info.
Die, Gunbreaker. I know we do eventually get the Tandaresh costume, right?
Yeah. Didn't we already unlock that one?
Yeah, I forgot if we got that or not.
I think we got that already. I feel like Mayaresh has that costume.
Oh, that's right. She's in the extra quest. That's right.
I can't look right now because I'm trying not to explode, chat. Oh my... Just fucking kill me. God, it sucked from so far away. Honestly, this is why we need the reminder about PvP, because we don't always want to do it.
I'm not good at PvP in general. I had this discussion entirely when I was talking about, Marathon. I mentioned every time, I'm not good at player versus player. It's just because I do not necessarily have the reflexes, coordination, or mindset to, do such things in general. But, that white mage literally popped their fucking shield the moment I fucking went in. How do they do this?
That I don't know. Some people are pretty cracked. We can do okay at smaller scale stuff when we're coordinating, but Frontline's chaos mode...
Alright guys, personally, I'm getting out of here. Yellow's coming. Goodbye. But that is it for Mailbag. Thank you very much for your comment. I look forward to seeing what we got going on next week. I'm assuming with story out, we'll have...
I thought that was only 4 or 5.
Is there?
There is one that's a similar intro. Oh my god.
Oh, there is one. I'm sorry, I did miss it.
Yeah, because I thought we went from Tyrant King to 418.
We did. I did.
But it's hard to look at the mailbag while, as Lucky, myself, and Ark all respawn back at spawn.
Yeah, no, I thought we were done. We were not done, so wait, let me look at the page. I looked at the fucking page. I
looked away.
Died.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was just But yes, we did miss one. My apologies. This one comes from Preparing for Marie Alter. They say, hello, Lucky and Meg. Hope you're having a good week. This week is quickly getting bad with how fucking shit this PvP match is going. Question, now that I've caught up to Rain 71, immediately sees YouTube notif and Patreon notif for 72. I wanted to ask, who do you think would be a best opponent for each player to face to have a Super Clues duel sibling to Logesh Max, or the match of the princes that brought the A game of both duelists? Ooh, let's see here.
I think I want to... As much as I'd love to talk about Rain, even in the mailbag zone, I feel like I should hold off a little on this question, because as the game master, I have knowledge that's very advanced about characters who aren't even seen yet.
Well, I'm trying to think, you see, unfortunately, this is one of the weird things about tabletop gaming, in that PCs are naturally more overpowered the longer they get just more and more overpowered the longer they stay in game, and it's sometimes hard to find a proper equivalent throughout the NPCs. Like Enos does not usually consider himself a mainline combatant, but because he has, oh god, what is it? Is it 9+ expertise in fight, and he has the full spread of the Hellhooks tree, Enos is pretty much can be a threat to just about anybody if he gets the proper dice, and he with a 9+ expert dice has a pretty good chance on getting some things. Like I think it's like the last one in the Hell Hooks ability is you can take your match and just change it to a special maneuver like a trip, feint, or disfiguring strike. As long as you get the match, it will let you do that in the first place.
Yeah, you just
has
decide
abilities.
to do the other maneuver.
And then, that plays off the first one with, even if you do the maneuver, you still get to do the damage. So, like, Enos, like, to have it, like, an equal and fair match, I'm not entirely sure, like, what that would be. There's a lot of thematic matches I think might be interesting. And I definitely think there are some, like, climactic matches that may be in order, but, like, a super close duel, I think, like, super close duels can do what happen with anyone as long as, the dice play fair. Or decide to be completely unhinged, like it was with Einar and Logesh.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. The episode that they're talking about that was last week's airing of
I don't know why I did that. A Dive Warrior.
What we call it, 71. Like that was those matches where I described some NPC on NPC matches as tight by virtue of just drama and narrative convenience, but there were definitely...
I'm a little pissed. Me and Ark and like 2 other people were trying to kill one fucking warrior. They still got away.
Yeah, it sucks. The time to kill, using my other hardcore PvP knowledge, the time to kill sometimes is a little high. Blah, that's the entire fucking enemy team. Whatever. Now that I'm respawning, I can talk for a second. But yeah, the matches in episode 71, named Tournament Arc, were often very tense and forthcoming, because the dice were like that. And, like, sometimes the dice were, like, very lopsided. Like, there were matches that were almost upsets, and it was like, oh, man, I'm gonna be really annoyed if it's just a pure upset kind of situation. But then, the dice turn it into a turnaround, and yeah, no, there's some very intense, interesting things going on. So, like you said, anything can be really cool intense if the dice let you do some fun stuff, which usually involves, expert or master dice. God, somebody's beating my ass from range. Oh, it's a bard. I'm silenced. Trying to fucking cast Xenogloss to get my stuff back. But, like, I am reasonably certain that there are, like you said, there are some very interesting thematic matchups, some very interesting, dramatic matchups that would be matched for Enos and for each of the player characters. But some of them would involve characters and concepts I haven't introduced yet.
We are moving forward in Rain. I definitely have things to talk about in the future, but I don't think that's necessary. Now is not the time.
No, 72 is very well paced, shall we say, since that episode is out and you can check it out.
But now Mailbag is done. Now it is concluded.
And the funny thing is, and it's my own fault for bringing it up, but I was gonna say to ask you to work on the thumbnail before jumping back to E33 after doing Mailbag, but we're in PvP right now, and I'm pretty sure you can't paint.
No, I definitely cannot, no.
Come back, cowards!
Oh man, we are chasing down Yellow pretty fucking hard. Jesus. It's not doing enough, though!
No, they're gonna win if we don't get a little bit of thumping. Okay, kill the Yellow Ninja. I'm gonna touch this point.
Touch it.
I'm being interrupted, I've been frozen, I've been exploded.
And now he's dead!
I appreciate whatever the sage was on our team who tried to put the sage baby jail around me. Tried to put me inside the protective bouncy castle, but I'm dead. Luckily, we won't be in this PvP match much longer.
This PvP patch.
Honestly, we're just getting our ass beat. We're at almost 6 out of 700 points. We're going down a little, but
Yes, when we get done with this, I'll probably just log out and get to. Oh, look, there's a fucking S rank right outside our spawn. How quaint. And we're fighting Yellow over it. How did this fucking person get here? Is this just one of those people who just fucking...
I mean, I'm dealing with a blue dancer, like, in our midfield. So yeah, probably. Oh shit, blue reinforcements are showing up. I gotta skedaddle. I couldn't win a one-on-one, by the way, as Black Mage.
I can't win a one-on-one on anything. Okay, I'm at Series 7 right now. Alright. I'm giving my comm to Mr. Mittens. I don't know what they actually did, but their name is Mr. Mittens.
Yep, same. That got me to 16. Exactly. Disband the party. Ugh. Log out. Okay. Mailbag is done. And that means it is time for Chaldea Free Talk. Oops. Sorry, hold on. Close the wrong tab. We reopen that tab and then close the mailbag tab, which is what I was aiming for. Okay. All right. Well, it's written in my notes first, but we don't have to start in that order. What do we want to do first? Do we want to talk about White Day or Ordeal Call 2?
I have no particular feelings one way or the other.
Like I said, the default order I got it is White Day first, so...
Yeah.
The White Day event. Charlemagne's Montajon.
I'm gonna be real, it was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be.
No, it's pretty good. It's... What do you say? It feels like a very basic premise.
It does.
But they do some, I want to say, pretty interesting stuff at the end there, because there's some... First of all, in general, it feels like the story is quite meta.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, some of it is literally about the thing that's brought up in Extella Link when he's introduced, that, Saber Charlemagne is not the literal historical figure Charlemagne, because those are two different guys. One is a figure of mythology who accomplished a lot of, random ahistorical stuff, and the other is Charles the Great, the progenitor of modern French and Germanic culture, the, first Holy Roman Emperor type guy, who also has a boatload of absolutely historically attested things to him. And that obviously is a kind of, I won't say that's a metaphor, but rather the relationship the character of Cyrano has is kind of a metaphor for that, because that's the question we're, asking. Are you Cyrano de Bergerac, the title character of the incredibly famous play, or Cyrano de Bergerac, the famous author and fencer who was the model for this fictional character in this play? Honestly, makes me wonder. It's funny because we kept consulting him on the radio, but it makes me wonder if we could do a similar event with Shakespeare, because Shakespeare wrote a lot of historical plays which kind of have influences on the actual characters, but also those were historical figures who are well attested. Obviously, Shakespeare wrote Julius Caesar, but I kind of feel like our Caesar is the actual historical Julius Caesar as well, but our Caesar is so much larger than life anyway that, it's... I don't know how you would tell the fictional Caesar, over the actual one. Actually, I'm not even thinking about, stuff like King Lear and King Macbeth is, based on, folkloric titles and stuff, but, actual, they're the plays that nobody cares about, but, that's, the Richards and the Henrys plays. Shakespeare did write a couple of those. But yeah, no, so there's a lot of kind of, the whole we're doing a play, I'm a dude disguised as a dude, pretending to be another dude.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with characters. That's also, again, even related to the plot of Cyrano de Bergerac, because that's another thing that, even if you didn't know it's from Cyrano de Bergerac, that's a very common plot element, is the whole, feeding a guy lines so that he can romance a lady.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big plot trope, so, there is a lot of line feeding as well. They do also hit us with some of the feels with some zingers, though.
Yes. I shed tears a couple of times. The final scene, yes, it was good. I was yes.
But, both obviously for stuff going on with Cyrano, who's very spirited for just being, a Mr. Game & Watch, as I said.
I was like, whoa, at the first time, but they did a lot with just that silhouette sprite. Very many poses, and it really worked, honestly.
Yeah, it feels like the team was like, okay, so Cyrano should just be a shadow servant, actually. He shouldn't really have a lot of substance to him, but what can we do with that artistically? And yeah, that kind of shadow puppet play kind of silhouette is they give him the kind of artistry you'd need for that, and the expressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt that Cyrano is a big dramatic character, so he has, big dramatic gestures. I'm just thinking of big arms wide, hand on face type stuff. He's got some expressions. He's also, of course, that one saber who doesn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
No, mysterious. Who could it be?
It was very nice, especially since Bradamante was kind of the one who figured it out in the end, even if she didn't, think. So she know. Because I think there's also some parallels in there, to her story as well. Yeah.
No, I think actually we utilized, I think, our cast pretty well. I want to say that Roland and Astolfo had probably the least focus of our actual members, but they as the only other Paladins of Charlemagne who are currently in the game, they do kind of work well as, the two background guys.
I think they did just fine as supporting cast.
Yeah. Like, they don't have a lot else going on, but they're present a lot, and they keep the tone, I think, both through, actually directly helping and also lightening the mood.
Oh, the mood was not like just being in the same room, usually gave jokes, when Charlemagne was trying to come up with, alias with him, and he goes, Stolfo, and all Stolfo was just like, were you about to call me ass? It's just like that, or, when Charlemagne...
Or later, when they realize that their cover's blown, it's because Stolfo's just been calling him by Emperor the entire time.
My Emperor, Bradamante, Roland... It's just like, oh god, no. It was great.
Or when they're talking about needing to recast Roxanne, Astolfo doesn't get it. Wait, why would I do it? Huh? What do you mean? You're already wearing a skirt. No, it's yes.
No,
I also I'm a sucker for the cheap heat, but I do love the moment where, in the kind of the weird white space where the correction, literally kills Charlemagne. It's a forced loss. Instant death. He's just like, oh, well, you got me. I'll be back later. Don't worry about it. And then when we enter the white space, the Paladins are just like, well, hey, guess what? We're here, so that must mean our boss is here. It's him. And he comes, flying down from the top rope.
Oh, God.
Honestly, it wasn't a lot, but there were a couple of little graphical notes here. There were a couple of transitions, a couple of interesting concepts, and, a couple of cut-in animations.
That was good.
And of course, we got more. The Dawn.
The Dawn. No, I love the part at the finale when Serrano's like, man, I can't do this, and Dawn's like, you can do this. Look at me. I can do it. And I'm a coward. Oh God.
Yeah, no.
I love
Don Quixote is a great character for this sort of thing again. The kind of the reverse parallel where at one point, Cyrano's just like, no, I can't possibly overcome the gap between the real me and the fake me. And Charlemagne's just like, nah, that shit don't matter. I'm fake as hell. I'm definitely not real. Does that matter? No, watch this.
Nay.
Just imagining him. It's a fucking cool skateboard trick. Play the Tony Hawk noise here. Ba-ba-ba. And then, yeah, the Don Quixote kind of has the reverse, where just like, oh, no, you don't understand. I'm famous for being, a crazy good-for-nothing, but I wanted to model my life after these famous heroes, and here I am. No, it was a good story beat, I think, for everybody.
No, so actually, I like the story a lot more. Actually, I think the CBC has probably been, propelled up to probably my number 1 or number 2 spot. Like I said, the focus was, very tight, and, we didn't, the focus was very tight, but I think they made it tell for a much more dramatic and interesting story.
Yeah, and also I want to say, obviously they had a handful of, generic sprites anyway, but I can't help but feel like because, Charlemagne's involved and Roland and Dawn, that this was kind of a soft sequel to Traum. But...
No, I don't see that, yeah.
I was just going to say, Traum also introduces to the generic class sprites, which this story event also used to great effect multiple times. Not just with the saber thing with Bradamante, but also just, in general, scattering them around is the idea that there are, phantom spirits and minor heroic spirits inside this theater, which has a holy grail in it that nobody can get at. It really grows the cast in a neat way.
Also, I do like some of the monster inclusions. FGO very correctly goes, death to scalpers. At one point, you're patrolling, and, Bradamante says, but they're not really doing anything. Should we really be, fighting them? And they're all like, overpriced tickets here, get your overpriced tickets here. And they're just like, no, wait, death.
Yeah, that's a cut that I think that FGO can easily do, as both loads of the, writers, artists, and actors are hobbyists, shall we say. They're in the fandom already, but also as merch sellers, event organizers, producers of fan works of doujins and legitimate releases, they know all about that shit, I'm sure.
No, I think my personal favorite was Merch Shark, who in battle is like, it's a shark that wants all the merch, and at the end he's just like, give me all the merch. I was like, it was a continuity that gave me just a little bit of life in that moment. So No, the mobs were entertaining as too, which I think was just important.
Honestly, all in all, just like a really well written, like you said, very very tightly focused event. We took a relatively small cast, spiced it up with a couple of extra characters who fit super well. Like we said, Sereno's appearance is like very striking, but they do a lot with it, and he is just such a fun character. Like I don't know if they could pull it off, but I would love to see him as a summonable servant, maybe like a bronze or silver saber, and just one of the ascensions is he's just a fucking shadow puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be very cute, and I also think that people like wouldn't complain about that. Like FGO doesn't feel like it has a problem that some gacha games attract of like people being like, oh, the characters are not hot enough. It's just like, oh, what's this? You've remembered a kick-ass character design from like 3 years ago who, was incredibly tragic and deeply scarred my heart. just the one gif of slamming the credit card onto the table and holding it out, just give me. That's how we roll here. That's how Very Alter works. That was a concept that was brought up all the way back in Orleans, story chapter official number 1. We saw the design first in the Requiem collab, which has got to be like, what, over 2 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago? Voyager and Ares?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, like that was a long, slow burn to get here. That's where the demand is, baby. But yeah, no, very good White Day. I think I agree that, yeah, this is probably up there with Moriarty's bartending event for one of the all times. And it's just a fucking, I think like 9 total sections, because it's, obviously 7 and then prologue, epilogue.
Yeah.
Sometimes FGO events feel like they go by very fast because they have only, one story drop a day for 7 days kind of a thing. This one, I think, did quite well with the amount of time and content it had.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Charlie's new costume, looking pretty cool. Shit, that reminds me, which cards do I need to unlock that? It's a thing I should actually concern myself with since I'm done with the event. 200 macarons, and then I need to buy those extra copies of the CE as well. The CE, by the way, very fun.
I do love it, yes.
I'm like reasonably certain this is not the start of the joke, but this is yet another segment in the story of mentioning how even the Mailmaster looks really good in crossdress. Like, I'm pretty sure we've brought that one up before, but...
Oh, yes, that's because, well, it wasn't in the original Shimosa story, but the, not Shimosa, Shinjuku, in the original Shinjuku story, but in the Shinjuku manga that is adapted, the Mailmaster, does cross-dress, and people were just like, oh my god!
That's right, yeah, it was an official design.
Yeah.
There was also that one, what was it, Murder at the Kugetsukan, where I think you were, the person in the family that you were possessing was also female, regardless of looking like either master. It's just that she was Bephonen the other way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's a several step process that as usual, like the FGO team hears about these kinds of things and they're like, well, we can keep going. Honestly, like I said, after seeing how big it is, I'm super excited to see how it does with a lot of those things. And if we don't have anything else to say about White Day, so that would be clearing my throat off, say the off mic. But yeah, if we don't have anything further to say about White Day, that is a pretty good segue moment.
I do not.
Alrighty. Then, let us prepare for... Hold on, let me make sure I get the correct subtitle to this. But we are going to move on to our next topic in Free Talk, which is going to be the Ordeal Call 2 pregame, because it is going to soon be the time for Ordeal Call 2, The Inescapable Gehenna, id. Which is a little shorter than Ordeal Call 1, Zero Compass Inner Domain Paper Moon, which is the name of the story chapter you have to clear to get access to Ordeal Call 2. Funny how that works out. And remember, like I said at the front of the show, if you don't want any spoilers, if you like to come into FGO story releases completely blind, now is your time to pull your ejection lever. I believe usually we get some lovely commenters who will leave some timestamps for, when spoilers begin, when spoilers end, kind of a thing. And as I said, to clear Ordeal Call 2, you're going to need to have cleared Ordeal Call 1. And this one will have 26 chapters plus epilogue. Ooh. So it is quite a meaty one. Clearing this will net you 26 Saint Quartz, 1 Polar Star, 1 Holy Grail, 1 copy of the new CE, and of course, clearing MSQ will give you loads of mats, pure prisms, and each pip is 1 Saint Quartz frag, which would be a lot of Saint Quartz fragments, so we're not counting those, but it's a lot. Story releases for FGO are a big deal. Also clearing it will unlock Mary Alter and Cagliostro in the summon pool, and allow you to class score Avengers, which will answer chat's question. Yes, this is the Avenger one. So you got access to a new class score in Extra. It'll apply to Avengers, and you'll unlock many, many things. So let's talk about some of the general vibes for this one. So, first of all, difficulty tweak. Number 1. Generally, most enemies in this scenario will have a passive buff where they take less damage from non-Avenger servants.
Ooh.
It can be as low as 20%, and I saw, I didn't thoroughly study it, but it goes as high at least as 40%. So, you can still use, class advantage and stuff, but you are looking at cases where your non-Avenger servants will deal less damage to enemies. This is a way, I think, to keep the HP numbers from getting giga ludicrous, but still give you some teeth. You'll be facing basically every class. Like, I started by listing this out class by class, and I'm just like, oh no, there's fucking everybody's here. There's Sabers, Lancers, Archers, Riders, Assassins, Casters, and Berserkers. So, every class is represented. And guess what? A lot of the bosses are going to be Avengers. Oh, so many Avengers. So many Avengers. For mobs, this is going to include a couple of palette swaps of pre-existing guys. Death Knights are just Enforcement Knights, Desert Skeletons are just skeletons, etc. But we do have 2 brand new mob classes. We have Rooks, also Thunderbirds, but new bird-type enemy. And 1 enemy who are just blazing hands. They are literally just giant flaming fists. Those are Berserkers. So, blazing hands are Berserkers. Birds are Archers. Do not ask questions. And speaking of that damage resistance thing, yeah, so mobs can be as low as 20k HP in this, or as high as 80 to 90k-ish for actual trash mobs. Some of these will involve also 6 enemies on screen. Mini-bosses are usually somewhere in the 100 to 200k range. So, not crazy depending on what you're working with, but, can get you out there. Break bars I'll be freakier as usual. I will cover that when I give you, the full breakdown of things you probably need to know. But we do have 2 brand new mobs, and that, of course, means new mats, everybody! New mats, PogChamp, new mats, PogChamp. Flower of the End and Golden Cauldrons. I think Flowers and Cauldrons work as abbreviations. That is, Flowers of the End are received from the Blazing Hands. Golden Cauldrons are received from the Rock-type birds. They are silver and gold mats. There is no new bronze mat, thank God. This time. Flowers of the End are also pretty cool. They're spider lilies, but they're not just red spider lilies. They're kind of blue and red at the same time. They look pretty sick. The Golden Cauldron is like an incense holder. For story support, you will have Avengers. I think literally every playable Avenger except Summers is involved in the action somewhere, plus the all-new Hassan. But anybody who's an Avenger regularly, I'm pretty sure is in the story. Also, despite the special resist, almost every servant you have will usually get 20% damage up as well, and Avengers get more. So, we're kind of doing a back and forth thing. Smaller HP pools for some enemies. They get various levels of special resistance, but you're also getting damage ups. It's very, very Avenger appropriate. And now we're going to run through the sections, and I'm going to give you some tips where you think you need them. So everybody strap in. First of all, some of you will be happy to know, I have nothing to tell you for the first 4 nodes. The first 4 sections, you'll be fine. Nothing really weird happens. Section 5, we're going to get started strong, though. First of all, we've got Fake Fight Alert. Get ready to do this a lot. You got an Avenger boss that has 155k HP and 80% damage resistance, period, in addition to their special resistance. The battle ends when they NP, which happens automatically if you do break their HP bar, or after 5 turns. They're gonna tank everything. Section 6 has the same fake fight in the middle, which ends at break 1, including the 80% damage resistance stuff. But in the final pip of Section 6, this is a real fight. The boss is an Avenger with 396 and 752 KHP. That's right, baby. We're jumping straight to 750,000 HP.
Great.
But it's time to introduce the gimmick. Guess what? In each of these sections, we're really gonna drill down in on your Avenger allies. You must use Tyra no Kagekiyo in this fight, either yours or the NPC. She will get super buffed, including stripping the enemy's 80% damage resistance. The boss just uses extra attack, no NP is involved. They will get a buff after bar 1 to increase their attack, and their attacks will remove your non-evasion buffs. But yes, expect this gimmick to come up a lot. You will have to use a servant in your front row, and they must either be yours or the NPC. In Section 8, you actually have to fight Kagekiyo. She starts the fight with 3 evades and has 335 and 438 KHP, nothing else really interesting. Section 9 is our next sequence of working on a boss. They've got 212 and 283 KHP, 2 break bars. They get extra attack, defense, and debuff immunity, but their NP is just extra attack. This boss starts the battle by making your whole squad Roman, and on break bar number 1, the entire enemy team gets increased damage versus Roman. Also increased crit chance. I make no further commentary. Interpret that one however you like. Anyway, remember how I said earlier where I was like, yeah, I'm a little chuffed at some of the story decisions here. Anyway, Section 11 has a fake boss fight, break 1 bar. Section 12, it's more of the same. You've got to fake fight this boss a couple of times. And by the way, assume whenever I don't say what the boss's class is, they're an Avenger, of course. But Section 12, you've got to do this fight over and over again, but now with 6 enemies on screen. Your first match with the boss is inclusive. You break the first 2 of their 188,000 and 229,000 K bars to win. You ignore their caster mini-boss friend. So the real fight in Section 12 is a little trippy. You must use Nidokris Altar in the fight. Again, yours or NPC. This is a ticking timer fight. You have 10 turns before instant death kills your whole party. The boss has 188, 229, and 266 KHP. The enemy boss will issue you commands. They will make judgments, which say you are not to use skills, NP, or to kill an enemy for 2 turns in rotation at the start of the turn. So at the start of the turn, they'll be like, I forbid skills. And you're all hit with a timer buff. If you use skills within 2 turns, bad things happen. Also, at the start of their turn, they'll summon ads. If you breach the contract, you lose 5 turns from your instant death timer.
Oh.
So be careful about that. If you correctly pass the check, if you go 2 turns without firing, an NP, firing your skills off, or killing an ad, you wipe the ads. They are inflicted with instant death. You heal 2 KHP. The enemy can't summon ads for 2 turns, and I believe it adds, I forgot to jot it down, it's going to be hard, but I believe it adds 3 turns to your instant death timer. Also, okay. Yes, no, they cast Super Doom. Like, it's a puzzle boss. So if you don't break the rules, you get buffs, you get extra resistance, you don't have to worry about the ads. But if you fuck it up, you will die soon. You will soon die. It is phrased as instant death, so I do believe that effects that prevent you from instant death firing may save you, but the boss will almost assuredly restart the Doom timer if you manage to not die, so, yeah. Then, some stuff happens that you don't need to worry about in terms of clearing content for 4 sections. Section 16, you're going to have a series of fights with Salieri, and I say series because you got to fight him like 3 or 4 times total. Only the final one's for reals, 271. 389 KHP. He starts the fight by giving you defense down for 5 turns, and also him giving himself a crit chance up. And he charges his NP rapido-like. Gives himself 2 pips when the fight starts, gives himself 2 pips instantly when you break the bar. So not NP to max, but probably NP to max. Now, Section 17, we're getting to the real shit. And if you were like, I thought we were in the real shit. Oh, no. So, the final pip of this fight, you have to fight 2 bosses, 201, 225k, and 220, 229, 165 KHP. They're both Avengers. One boss will inflict you with Curse. The other inflicts you with Burn. The Curse, unremovable. You cannot uncurse yourself. If you are burned, you will also receive a 10% NP damage down for 5 turns. And also, that boss gives you an effect which means that your attack up buffs are actually attack down buffs. Fuck you.
Well, that's just rude.
This is also permanent and unremovable. The boss with 3 HP bars will, after breaking a couple of their bars, convert the other boss into a berserker mob, and then if you kill the original Avenger boss, they switch back to the Avenger boss mode. I don't know how that's gonna make sense in the story, but trust me, it will. And when you break their last HP bar, they will have a condition where if you have suffered their special burn condition, you will be stunned for 1 turn. So a lot of managing, dots, debuffs, and very funny things. Section 19. We have another recurring Avenger boss you gotta work your way through. The first matchup is 509, 680, and 852 KHP. Don't worry, the 850 doesn't count. You will have lowered mental resistance. All your servants have 50% mental res down, and increased skill cooldown on your master skills. At first, the enemy won't use NP, but after you break a couple of bars, the enemy becomes for real. They will actually start to employ their MP, which will be a single target NP, which ignores defense. In the real fight, the final version of this fight, you must employ Hessian Lobo and Gorgon in front, and they both get big buffs. This boss is immune to stun, immune to mental debuffs, and does have some free NP hits in there, some free extra NP juice. And also, if you are not slapping him with the buffed units, he will get additional actions. The final version is 509, 680, 852, 909 KHP. So we're really hoping those story buffs carry us. Now, Section 21 first. Double checking my bullet points. Section 21, a little bit of a tricky one. You have a Pretender boss with 335, 390 KHP. You must use NPC Mary Alter. No other Avengers can be used in your party comp, period. Mary will get buffs, though. The boss will inflict burn and NP down as usual, and has a very annoying buff on bar 2, where they'll get 7 stacks of evasion, and have a 100% crit chance while they have evasion. But like I said, you must use an NPC Mary in the front. Now, Section 22 is where the fun begins. First of all, most of this entire section is a boss rush against the shadow versions of every Avenger you've beaten up until now across all the sections, during which you cannot use any Avenger class servants. Just not allowed. It ends with a brand new Avenger boss, 172, 213, 261, 320 KHP. The boss can and will rewrite your class affinity to do half damage versus Avengers.
That's just rude.
You will get a little fun. So you're gonna get some stuff going on with your master skills during this fight. You'll reduce your master skill countdown specifically by using your friendly servants to attack, fire NP, and using your active skills. And if you use your master skills, first of all, if you use any master skill, you'll get double damage. You'll get a switch, which means you do double damage to Avengers versus class affinity, so long as the boss is not giving you their trademark debuff stack. And each additional skill will remove the stacks, removes 3 stacks from you, and gives you different benefits, such as healing you, giving you defense up, and other modifiers. Also, by the way, that is a lie. The final HP bar has a 100% guts at the end.
Of course it does.
And also, depending on how many of the signature debuff stacks you have, will get extra NP charge. I think if you have 7 total, they just automatically go to full NP and fire. So you're going to want to manage your cooldown timers on your master skills appropriately for this. I do think that 100% guts might be removable, though. Section 25 is the big one. First, NPC-only fight, which only lasts 3 turns. I'm pretty sure this is just there so you get to see some of the mechanics. Anyway, the final boss is a Pretender boss. The real fight's basically in 2 phases. The first is 403, 570 KHP. It ends after those 2 bars. During this fight, Avengers get plus 100% damage. On bar 2, I should say, the boss gets a 50% damage resist for a few turns. But, I don't know how else to describe it. The boss basically seems to have forking skill procs, where on a turn, they will randomly pick 1 or 2 skills to use, which give them, of course, various buffs. And then based on that, on the following turn, they will do a different follow-up buffs, and they have 3 different trees they can go through. So, this is, like I said, why I think you have that first fight where you do only NPCs and it will end after 3 turns automatically, just so you can start to see what the boss does. Like I said, this one's very complicated for me to explain. The way the wiki has it broken down is okay, If the boss does this sequence of buffs, it's like Route A. On the following turn, Route A, the boss will do this and this, and there's 3 of them. There's A, B, C, so I'm like, I don't know how else to describe this. You'll see. The second half of the fight, basically the other 2 break bars, is 638, 786k HP, and you must include the original Edmond Dantes in this matchup. Yes, we go through mandatory Avengers all the way through where we end up with Dantes at the end. This boss also has 100% guts on his last HP bar, but it's funny, this came out several years before that, but it's basically the thing that happens at the end of the Arcadion raids, Lucky. Revives himself with 150% max HP, but 50% defense down and 50% damage resist down permanently. So just DPS race.
I can already hear everything burns in my head.
That's very appropriate, actually. Yeah, that's a good one to listen to. Hell of a ride. Anyway, new story chapter means new free quests. Assuming I'm counting correctly, there should be 12 new nodes, which gives you 12 more Saint Courts. So you are looking at over 30 if you do all of this. And you can farm a variety of mats. What else can you expect in this? Well, Jean and Jolter should get new rank ups, and their NPs will get some adjustment, including some BGM stuff, unless that already happened, and I didn't notice until now, which is possible. But you'll also get a trio of new CEs. Good news, 100-year curse, gone forever. Bad news, there's another Zokin CE that's going to replace it. But this block of CEs also includes Necromancy 2! Coinflip Guts, baby! 50% chance to proc Guts. Okay, so the NP update to include themes, the music has already occurred. Okay. I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I can't confirm because I haven't needed to use either of my Jeans lately. I am pretty sure my Jolter is going to get some muscle stretching during this event. Anyway, Coinflip Guts is great, but there should be 4 summon banners total. The first one, our initial drop, will be Mary Alter and our new Hassan Shining Star, introduced in this release. Once again, to remind you, Mary Alter is story-locked. I believe Hassan is limited? Let me check, actually, if he's permanent 4-star. But yes, Mary Alter is a story-locked servant to this release, so you'll get a chance on the banner, and then afterward you gotta get a little lucky. Number 2 is going to be a Jolter and Salieri banner. Banner number 3 will be a shot at Kagekyo and regular Mary. And the 4th banner is the big follow-up. That's the brand new servants. That's going to be the Count and Mr. Cagliostro. So a total of 4 new servants. Also, I'm checking the wiki. It looks like Son of the Shining Star is permanent, so that'll be neat.
Yeah.
New permanent Avenger. But yes, the first banner, like I said, is Mary and the new Hassan, and she is story-locked, so that's a pretty important one. The 4th banner is going to be the limited Count and the story-locked Cagliostro. I have to say these very carefully because if I say their 2 names too close together, it will sound like I'm talking about only one person. It's the Count of Monte Cristo, and technically I think his full servant name is Alessandro de Cagliostro. Like, we don't actually call him the Count of Cagliostro in this. Sadly, I don't think we'll actually get Hassan of the comically large spoon, just because it's holding a reflective sword. It just looks like a big spoon because there's a tweener frame there. But we do like Hassan of the comically large spoon. He exists in my heart.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just that animation's so fucking good. I have to pause and think about it occasionally. But yes, we love that guy. But yeah, those are their banners, and that's all I got, gang. Like, it's a pretty dense chapter. There are quite a lot of boss fights. Honestly, at points, this feels like a boss rush of a chapter. But it does kind of seem like every Avenger is going to get their time in the sun, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. You know, there are sequences to kind of either mandatorily utilize or investigate everybody. And I may have, skipped over it because it was a simpler boss fight, but I didn't catch any notes that there's a mandatory Jolter usage. But honestly, that may just be because I think Jolter is one of the servants who, joins your story support team, early and just keeps through. Which I'm sure because this is the setting of id is a weird high school AAU type shit. I'm sure has nothing to do with school uniform Jolter hanging out with you. I'm also, being the classical tsundere. And then also, of course, Hassan of Shining Star joins you pretty early in the makeup. But yeah, this seems like a really interesting time. Like I said, you're going to be a little challenged, but first of all, if you have Avengers, start leveling them. You got half AP EXPs right now. Get into the mines.
I'm not worried about levels, but I am worried about skill levels right now.
That is important. Luckily, depending on what kind of crap they got, you can level them pretty good. Let me actually pull up my... No, that won't help me. Filter my origin list by Avenger. How many of these guys I got? I have too many fucking EXPs in the list. Oh, actually, I should say, I think the only Avenger who doesn't get, like, a main story feature, I think, out of, like, the big released ones is Ushigozen, but she literally just had an event, so most of your team will show up. Oh, shit, it's Daily Reset. That's why we're being like that. Okay. Just fuck around in my menus. And I'm sure we will have many mungus things to be talking about there. But that is your pre-game.
Pre-game!
And you may think that we're getting on out of here, but that's not true, because it's the first show of a new month. I know it's a little late, because, the month started early in a week. But that means it's time for Fanservice Friday. And as I mentioned earlier, I did spend a little extra time cooking on this one, because I had to do all my research and work everything out in my head, go in the tank. The poll for the next release has already been posted, as has the Fail Betrayal poll. If you want to support us on Patreon, at the $5 and higher levels, you can vote in topic polls to pick Fanservice Friday and a Fail Betrayal episode once a month. And we do it the first week in the month now. I'm doing this for probably like 3 or 4 months, because it means that I can have the poll run the whole length of the month. So your Patreon dollars go further. The illustrious patrons have picked this week Madame Mary Tussaud, classified as Pretender. Some of you may recognize this name relatively immediately. But if you don't know, Madame Tussaud, first of all, she was a real person. I can get how you might think she's not real, but no, she was real. She was a artisan and wax sculptor and kind of an amateur historian. Originally French. She was displaced to England because of the problems, the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. But she produced a vast collection of wax busts, replicas, and models of people, and eventually opened her own display, which is, by the way, the original Madame Tussauds was literally on Baker Street. Baker Street is real. It's not fake. And now it is a whole chain of wax model museums all across the world. Fun Omega fact. I've actually been in Madame Tussauds in London. I don't remember it very well because I was young, but it was on one of the trips visiting family in England. We spent, I think, just a couple of days in London to see some of the sights, and one of my mother's cousins, my second cousins, took us. But yeah, they're all over the place. Madame Tussauds, no apostrophe, but it's a whole branding thing. Madame Tussaud was trained by a local physician, who she called Uncle, who he practiced the art of wax sculpting to model anatomy, and Madame Tussaud, usually known as Mary, her birth name was Anna Maria, but Mary Tussaud, acquired this skill and was able to showcase it to the French royal court. Her mentor, whose name was Curtius, literally Philippe Curtius, but he had an exposition of waxworks known as the Caverne des Grands Voleurs, the Cavern of Great Thieves, which was an exhibition of, famous murderers and thieves in wax replica. So if you're curious, that she inherited the sensationalism. But he had several exhibitions and taught her the art of modeling wax. According to, historical records, her first wax figure model was produced in 1777. Once again, to put your position here, Madame Tussaud is concurrent with the, American and French revolutions. Born December 1st, 1761. Died at the ripe old age of 88 in 1850. So she was around quite a while. But her first wax figure was of the famous French writer Voltaire. Up until the revolution, she performed many famous, busts of celebrities, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Benjamin Franklin, etc. She taught Louis XVI's sister the art of making certain offerings and was, invited to live in Versailles for a while. So, there was a lot going on there. So, she made several there. So, during the revolution, being a court artist living at the Palace of Versailles, during the Reign of Terror, she was arrested and was almost executed.
Oh, Jesus.
And then in a not surprising but very kind of fucked up twist of fate, the Revolutionary Committee employed her to make death masks of the revolution's most famous victims, Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, Jean-Paul Marat, Robespierre, that fucker. So she produced, death masks of them with wax modeling. She did marry a civil engineer, Francois Toussaint, and they had a few children. So again, canonical MILF. But she inherited her mentor's wax work. She had her own works, and so during the treaty years in 1802, she went to London and toured Britain and Ireland to showcase her displays because she couldn't go back to France because of the Napoleonic Wars. But eventually, she established the museum, the wax house, in Baker Street, and has been famous ever since. Here, by the way, she did, while she was alive, she produced a wax model of herself, which is this one. And here is another, just to give Chance some visual representation, here is another one that was, this was a portrait when she left France for England at about age 40. So like I said, you got a broad range here. Also, obviously, I don't know if necessarily this is what the patrons, if you were thinking this far ahead, knowing that id was right around the corner, but not just for her, famous position, with the Wax Museum, but Madame Tussaud is a great pick to talk about because obviously I think this would be a very interesting character to do. You might have to actually be careful because you might not be able to call her Madame Tussaud because the name of the brand is Madame Tussauds, but you can call her Mary Tussaud. I'm pretty sure since, she was a person historically who existed. But obviously she would be, well known to a lot of our pre-existing French servants, the whole Orleans gang. Mr. Mozart, Sanson, obviously, would have been a, I don't know about like a personal friend, but a friend and confidant of Marie Antoinette, known to several others. Also, while I'm pretty sure, thank you, autocorrect, I'm Googling, when is Sherlock Holmes set? Okay, Study in Scarlet's in 1881, so, she would not be concurrent with our favorite, consulting detective, but I'm pretty sure there have been Sherlock stories that involved Madame Tussaud's The Museum, because, again, her museum was on fucking Baker Street. And you know that nerd Sherlock Holmes went in there. That fucker paid the extra 6 pence to go into the Chamber of Horrors and look at the portraits of murderers. So I think it's just it's a very loaded relationship, but I think it's very important. For instance, I think she might have some words to say to Monsieur Napoleon. Probably mostly for not letting her go back to France. Actually, I don't think she would be upset about Napoleon. It would be the other stuff. But,
Had a perfectly nice house.
I kept all my stuff there, and he's like, well, my bad. Listen, we were working on sorting out the other stuff. And obviously I want to say for class makeup, I think you could go a very classical caster route. I think item creation and territory creation are very important to this build. But we can do some very funny things with the Pretender class now that it exists. And you'll see why I thought Pretender was a good pick when we get into it. But I think there's a lot that can be said for our aesthetics here and our interpersonal relationships. So, basic class stuff, class Pretender, alignment, lawful neutral, stats, a little low for a servant, strength D, endurance C, agility D, magical power C. Luck, A+. This woman survived the Reign of Terror and lived to be 88 years old. Started a very successful franchise. I think she's lucky. Class skills, because Pretenders can do whatever the fuck they want. Independent action D, just because it seems right. Item creation C, territory creation EX, for reasons that will become apparent later. Personal skills. Skill number 1. anatomy appreciation. B, this is a variant on aesthetic appreciation, which is a skill that Mozart has. It's a skill that in its original iteration sucked pretty bad. That was the one where you just do NP damage down on servant-type enemies only. So we don't want to do that as a default anyway. But also, while we call Mary Tussaud an artist, and she is a sculptor of wax, a very good modeler, she started learning through the aspect of anatomy. So this is, anatomy appreciation specifically. So she studied physical anatomy and learned how to model in wax figures. So not only, is it just like, if there's any artistic element to a noble phantasm, they could identify it. This is identifying heroic spirits through their physical appearance and how they move or act. So basically, servants kind of have a certain kinesthetic to them, how, say, Artoria Pendragon fights is very different than how, Achilles fights, kind of a thing. So physically seeing a servant, observing the move, she can be like, well, I have a pretty big repertoire of historical figures, so I'm pretty sure that's that guy. So probably would be, I like something like an NP seal, maybe even a, buff removal. We love buff removals in this house. Surgery, fake, D. So I mentioned it before, but her mentor Curtius, called him Uncle Curtius, was a doctor. He worked with wax to study and replicate anatomy. There's no real evidence she was medically trained, but she worked with medical professionals, including very gross fun fact I learned, but so apparently in pre-revolution France and probably thereafter, what you would do if you had a toothache was you'd go find your local street dentist, and he'd get out the pliers and solve that right for you. This is related to Madame Tussaud because this is where she would source teeth for her fucking busts and replicas. If you needed real human teeth, you would get them off the street dentist.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's gross. I don't like it. But this means that she is associated with the medical, but don't worry about that. She can actually use magical wax to seal wounds and can even replicate lost limbs, much like how others might use karakuri puppets. So, she's associated with medical stuff, so I gave her a healing skill, but that's not actually what it does. She uses wax to seal wounds and replace lost body parts. Also, still a little creepy, but, different. Probably, targeted heal. Maybe a, targetable damage cut kind of a thing. Replicate some stuff. Waxworks A, the personal skill that represents kind of her, unique work. And I want to say that I think Mary Tussaud is the most famous wax artist in the world. I can't really think of anybody known for working specifically with wax off the top of my head. Obviously, lots of artists do use wax, but not necessarily as the medium itself. You would use wax to make, castings and moldings for certain sculptures. Like, I know Michelangelo made some wax castings to actually, produce some of his famous, statues and the like. But yeah, I can't think of any other wax artists. But, she produced models of living and dead people to display at the court of Versailles and later. Lore-wise, this is just the skill that converts her magical energy into wax. She can use it to sculpt, lifelike shapes, which act as familiars. Again, I said caster would also be a good class fit here. This is probably your... Well, I was going to say NP steroid. The spoilers that I'm about to get to. I've given Madame Tussaud 2 NPs, and I kind of imagine that this isn't a case where we would use, one of them as a skill and one of them as an NP. I imagine she's an NP switcher. For reasons that I will get into in a second. But this is probably the skill that switches your NP between what would be, I assume, a team support one and a offensive one. So this is the one where you get to pick the switch, but also probably gives you, a battery and, NP damage up if you actually switch to the offensive mode and so on. Because that's the thing we do sometimes, and I think it's a great fit for what's going on here. Also, I think in her animations, she would, in addition to probably calling on, wax models of some people who might already be servants, some of whom also were fan servants. Like I said, Benji Franks was one of her modeled figures. Also, probably any kind of, generic wax golems, wax hands, that kind of stuff pop out. Sling a candelabra at people, even though that's not really, associated with her at all. It is still waxy. Also attack people with sculpting tools. The tools you use to actually work with wax are very similar to how you'd, carve and work on, small soft plastic and resin kind of a thing. Little brushes, little chisels, scalpel. But the noble phantasms, like I said, there are 2 of them. We'll start with a nice mode. Both are named Madame Tussauds, but the subtitle is different. The first one is Museum of Wax C Anti-Personnel. The museum, Madame Tussauds, which is named after her. It's an extension of her territory creation. It's a kind of, crystallization of her legend as the wax sculptor. She originally toured around Britain and Ireland, but then built her original premises in the Baker Street Bazaar, and now she has multiple museums across the world under her name. The museum is famous for its collection of models of famous historical people, both people that Madame Tussaud knew herself, those before her time, and making death masks of the recently deceased. But also, her, well, first of all, actually, I should read my notes in order. Madame Tussaud created a wax replica of herself to add to the museum, and after her death, her descendants added to it with new exhibits. So there's a whole, huge legacy of people contained within. So while she's in her workshop, her territory, that's why it's Territory Creation EX, she can marshal her magical energy to effectively create wax duplicates of Saint Grafts. That is to say, she can imitate heroic spirits, including both more powerful ones and those who would only be phantoms, those who don't have a strong level. Now, these wax replicas' physical capabilities are severely decreased. They are made of wax, so they're not going to have the same magical energy limits and the same, parameters. Their personalities may not match the original because, there are people that Madame Tussaud did not know who are in the people modeled inside the museum, But their physical appearance is flawlessly replicated, so they look exactly like the heroic spirit you're dubbing, and they can even reproduce certain external noble phantasms. Again, power level greatly reduced. Madame Tussaud can also duplicate herself to get more work done or to escape death, and could cover herself with the wax mask to look like any other heroic spirit. This is why I went with Pretender. She is the master of wax, so she can create wax clones of herself. She could even use a wax mask to hide. I just again, after writing the Ordeal Call 2 intro and then, or pregame and then doing this, I'm just I would love a short story, section in FGO where you think, Mary Alter is the antagonist, but, we get one good hit on her and the max crasks and it's actually, Madame Tussaud in disguise. Perfectly use that kind of thing. Also, guess what? She can replicate even completely fictional existences. I would like to give you a list of people who are modeled in various Madame Tussaud's museums. These include real-life historical figures like Henry VIII, Queen Victoria, obviously, Mary Antoinette, Abraham Lincoln, Babe Ruth, many U.S. presidents, but also many members of the cast of Star Wars. C-3PO and Chewbacca are in Madame Tussauds. Ant-Man's in Madame Tussauds. They have a whole DC and Marvel thing going on. Annabelle the Cursed Doll is replicated in wax. I like this note. I'm looking up the Wikipedia list. I'll link it to the patrons in chat as well. But I like that they specifically call it Arnold Schwarzenegger, but specifically him as the Terminator. But these people are all canonically contained inside her museum. So of course that means that she can summon all kinds of things. They're not, the real deal, but they're close, and you can get some crazy style stuff in here. U.S. presidents, historical kings and queens, all kinds of stuff going on that are replicated. So, it's crazy. Obviously, FGO couldn't get away with it, but using this as kind of a character for, a fan fiction or a tabletop campaign or something, you would be perfectly allowed for Madame Tussaud to just whip out a wax copy of Emperor Palpatine and have him, blast your enemies with Force Lightning. Which would probably confuse the shit out of any heroic spirits, but, actually, it's a very good question. You think Emi Ashiro's ever seen a Star War?
Probably.
Hiritsugu, would you take him to see Star Wars? I bet you would. I feel sorry, I'm just this has got me on a mental tangent. I feel Shiro is even though, he's a high school student in 2004, he feels like he's an original trilogy purist. He's seen Attack of the Clones and he's yeah, I get it, but I feel the simple heroism was more correctly adjusted in the original movies. Rin Tosaka has never seen a Star War. She didn't even know how to use a VCR. But yeah, so this is the Noble Phantasm that I imagine is a team-wide buff. Again, probably stuff Guts, either just on herself or a team-wide Guts. You love a big defensive Guts. You could do max HP increase, any number of defensive buffs, just straight up defense up. Because you're, creating a lot of wax copies. I also thought, if you want to get really funky, you could do something very funny here with kind of, again, both her vibe as a pretender and the ability to disguise identities with, the wax masks. 3 turns of, like, negate defensive class advantage kind of a thing. Just be like, nah, I'm not that class. You can't hurt me. Just kind of, buff it all up. But, like I said, this is meant to be a flipsy-flopsy. The other side of Madame Tussauds, the Noble Phantasm, is the Chamber of Horrors, rank A, anti-country.
Oh.
Hey, so, remember I talked about, the extra 6 pence? Yes. In the original museum, Madame Tussaud had a separate room, a separate chamber built with an extra charge, which was her most famous attraction. Obviously, I mentioned the Cavern of Great Thieves, which was an exhibition that her mentor did, which she inherited all of those models when he died. But also, the press coined the name Chamber of Horrors for her separate exhibit, which was, of course, the freaky, scandalous, scary one that everybody wanted to go to. Very in demand, very, very popular tourist attraction. So this is where, specifically, she displayed murderers and criminals. So obviously, many famous murderers were replicated here, along with other, various criminal figures. If you, don't know them, she had wax models of the infamous Burke and Hare, who were grave robbers. They stole corpses and sold them to medical schools and the like, and a few other things. She also, used this to display the death masks from the French Revolution she had acquired, and later it acquired, dictators and other infamous individuals, including, by the way, historically, Madame Tussauds usually has an exhibit on Jack the Ripper, but because his face was never seen, Jack the Ripper is usually portrayed as a shadow. Get a load of that. And, of course, like I said, Madame Tussaud herself was accused of being a royalist during the Revolution. She was so close to execution, she was forced to shave her head.
Oh, wow.
Like, literally right up to the last minute until, she was vouched for. Normally, like, lore-wise, I would say this is a inversion of her Noble Phantasm. It requires either a certain affinity to the master or for her to be, pressed into a corner. But basically, I said before, the normal version, Museum of Wax can basically make wax copies of Saint Graphs. So the Chamber of Horrors lets her make wax copies of anti-heroes, which include many weak phantoms and ghosts, monstrous entities. I don't think they really do like a lot of monster displays in Madame Tussauds, but they do display fictional characters. So like wax copies of, mobs, phantasmal species could be done. Over the years, the Chambers of Horrors is like a recurring, attraction that's been remodeled. So they also display, mock-ups of guillotines, mock-ups of execution scenes and devices, implements of torture, etc. I think one of the most recent remodels, like in London, they remodeled to like be a copy of like the famous Newgate prison and stuff like that. Like it's nowadays the Chamber of Horrors is almost like a haunted house type thing. Mm-hmm. I have vivid, slightly traumatic memories of the Chamber of Horrors involving, an exhibition on the bubonic plague, which involved, wax dummies of people dying of the Black Death and, like, the fucking fog machine and the ambient sound. I was, like, I don't know, probably, like, 8 or 9 when I went, but I remember it now at 33, so, like, it left an impression. So, like, big, spooky, cursey zone. So, Mary Tussaud can she lived 88 years. I'm sure she had a lot of resentment built up. She can turn that against her enemies, and also, the grudges of the condemned pour out in almost an Avenger-level malice. Or, in other words, she summons an army of wax soldiers modeled after serial killers and sends them to hunt down and dispose of her enemies.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh, no, very scary. Like I said, this is, like, thematically great fit. And this is the offensive version, which I imagine is AoE. They're probably both arts, but this would be, AoE, curse, maybe bonus damage versus human attribute. She's got a lot of, again, like I said, she had a lot of guys modeled, and you could even say there were, even more, figures over time. Not currently, but the Chamber of Horrors has included famous dictators such as Mr. Mustache himself, the Great Demonetizer. They have since removed that guy, but he was in there. Like I said, many famous, killers, figures of, like I said, Burke and Hare, Marianne Cotton who poisoned her stepson, all kinds of stuff. Just big old lists of guys. Yeah, I'm just rereading any articles about it. She's got the death of Jean-Paul Marat in there, who, by the way, if you forgot who Marat is, that was the guy that Charlotte Corday stabbed. So, Madame Tussauds has him in that museum. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's a lot of gnarly shit she could summon out of this, and this is why I was in the tank for a while. Why we ended up delaying the episode, because I'm like, hold on, I gotta work through this idea. But yeah, I'm imagining a character who can swap their NP from like arguably nice mode. You know, we're preserving historical figures. You know, it was mostly meant as a display of art and kind of as like a goof. Like, I can't imagine, you know, you model Voltaire or Benjamin Franklin or anybody like that as anything other than just like, hey, you're pretty rad. Can I make a wax copy of you to show people? And they're like, yeah. But there is like a certain amount of sensationalism, and I will say there seems to be a little bit of, you know, like historical debate about Madame Tussaud herself, like the making death masks of victims of the revolution and stuff was that, you know, forced on her to keep proving that she wasn't a royalist, to, you know, work with the dead of the executed of the royalists, or did she always, because like I said, her mentor's, you know, Cavern of Great Thieves exhibition was before that even, like, did she always have this kind of like, I forget what the term is for like news coverage when it's like that, but that kind of like scummy sensationalism thing, you know, like is she a person who capitalizes on tragedy, or is she a person who has worked very closely with very, you know, scary, traumatic things and is just like, well, you know, I'm not dead, so I'm at least going to make some fucking money. And I should say that Madame Tussaud did not come from a very wealthy background. Her father was a soldier who died in the 7 Years' War before she was born, and, you know, she worked as like a chambermaid. So, like, you know, yeah, God forbid women have hobbies. So, you know, again, she kind of came out of nowhere, lived to be the ripe old age of 88, and, you know, built a worldwide brand of, you know, art tourism, basically. But like I said, I think there's a lot you could do with this. Obviously, you know, looking at her, you know, wax models, you could go for, you know, the classic kind of like dark bonnet, glasses, short hair kind of a look. You could get a little fancier. At least one of these, I'm just imagining we go super gothic and, like, you know, make sure that she's got, you know, wax stripping down. You know, you could do some real freaky shit if you get the right artist. Get some, like, put live candles in her hair kind of a thing. You know, gripping a candelabra to hit people with. But this is like a case of like other servants where I pegged ideas. Like,
honestly, like, sorry, I've been listening, and I think, actually, I feel like you said Pretender class. Like, I feel like when you say this is Madame Tussaud, it's not Madame Tussaud the person, but it's Madame Tussaud's the franchise. It's not actually any one particular internet. It just takes the guise of the wax doll of Madame Tussaud.
Oh no, that was something I didn't actually like write that down, but that was something I was thinking about. Is like it could just be that the servant is just the embodiment of the museum, right? Because the museum is just as famous as the artist, and she did the freaky magic thing. Not to say that Madame Tussaud is literally magic, but when you're writing urban fantasy like Fate, she put herself in the museum, chat. That wasn't later. Yeah. She made a wax copy of herself, immortalized herself in her own museum, which is a worldwide franchise. So, like, I said that, like, one of the abilities of the normal house, the Museum of Wax Noble Phantasm, is she can make extra wax copies of herself to, you know, have body dupes, guts, you know, do extra work. But, like, I should have said that then, like you said. One thing I was thinking of is, like, you could easily write it that it's wax dummy, like, it's literally wax dummies all the way down. There is no real Madame Tussaud. It is always a wax copy.
Yeah.
Which would also explain, like, how she could probably do some, like I said, some shape-changing stuff. Because, like I said, I really got in my head this image of, like, you know, you're doing an event story. You're like, Mary Alter, you're the real villain. You know, somebody punches her and then just the wax kind of just cracks off and you see, you know, Madame Tussaud underneath and you're like, what? But yeah, no, like, there's a lot you could do with this. And like I said, if you wanted to go a more traditional route, if you wanted to go literally, you know, Mary Tussaud's, you know, Anna Marie Tussaud herself, Castor is just as good of a fit. You could even go so far as to say that, you know, one of the things she did was study magecraft. But yeah, like the kind of like embodiment of the museum itself, you know, all the wax copies would be pretty fun. And like I said, this is just one of those things that much like Locusta, who I came up with a fan servant idea for years and years before she actually showed up in FGO. And I was thinking more of like a cool goth, you know, evil toxic best friend. And the mushroom-headed gremlin though is like, that's fair. you'd probably have to be a little bit of a freak to hang out with Nero all the time.
I still think she's kind of a toxic best friend.
Oh,
Just
she
more
is
grimly.
that too. But like I said, I you know, it's a little hard for me to imagine this Lacusta setting up like a school of poisoning, because like I feel like she would just set up a school where she cooks mushrooms or something, and sometimes they kill
True
you.
enough.
Like she's a little bit of a gremlin, a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's how it works out. But like reading about, you know, Madame Tussauds and stuff and being like, oh yeah, like right there at the American Revolution, you know, knew Benjamin Franklin, Voltaire, a lot of those guys, like I said, probably had known some of our other, you know, historical characters like Mozart and Salieri rattling around, and then like the French Revolution stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I would love to see this character kind of hang out with the France gang. That's like, I'm just imagining like the kind of character conversation of like, you know, at Chaldea, for instance, canonically meeting both regular writer Marie Antoinette and Avenger Marie Antoinette and being like, you know, which one of these queens do I like better? Well, this one's more true to life, but this one's mad about the same things that I'm probably mad about. And like I said, you know, Mr. Napoleon. I'm sure that, like, you know, she'd have some dialogue for Sherlock Holmes, which would probably be kind of funny because, like I said, there was being on Baker Street, the museum has done like a whole like Sherlock Holmes experience thing and stuff like that, you know. So there's a lot of extra stuff there, even though, you know, she was dead by the time Sherlock would have been on the scene, real or fictional. So yeah, it was a fun one. So if you want to do more Fanservice Fridays, vote in the poll up now.
Yeah.
But that will take us right around the 2-hour mark out of free talk and into the What's Up Zone.
What's up, zone?
But because it's been warm, I'm going to take a brief break and refill my bottle of water before we keep on talking, so we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Well, because of the pregame and the Fanservice Friday, I've been talking for a little bit, so it might be good to pass that back and have you talk for a little bit, Lucky.
Okay.
And we did mention it earlier because you were straight up playing it, but you have actually started Expedition 33.
Yes, I have.
Clair Obscure.
I have
After some
started.
period.
I am in Act 2. I don't want to say my hours because unfortunately Lucky has done that thing where I just leave the game on and the timer continues to tick on, so I don't actually know what my playtime is at.
Yeah.
But I'm in Act 2.
On PlayStation, mine says 26 hours in, but I'm not sure exactly where that lays. I'm allegedly 68% done, but also that feels wrong.
I mean, right now I'm just fucking around, finding like little hidden places, and touching them. Just found a
there's
hidden
a pretty
Kestrel
big
arena.
map.
But in my playthrough, I just met Minoko, and we're heading on to Old Lume. But I decided since we're doing the show, I was just gonna run around and fuck around a bit. And I can definitely want to say, like, playing this game so far, I can definitely see why a lot of people like it, why it's got a lot of acclaim. There is a lot to this game that makes me just go, yeah. The visual style is very, very, very good. They use a lot of they hit this the French post-apocalyptic vibe pretty strongly. And I think I could see like some hints of maybe some like pantomime or Harlequin designs in some of the enemy design and how they're presented. Just given, with the post-apocalyptic dark fantasy flair. So I like it. The soundtrack is phenomenal. God, even just in the first in the prologue and Lumiere, just you start hearing the leitmotifs and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, the first section in Lumiere, which I think is technically marked prologue, is like,
yeah, I think it's
a real tone setter.
It's a real tone setter, but I do think it sets up like a lot of the vibes for a lot of things. Because like, yes, everything's very serious, very sad, but everyone, people are like, shouldering and trudging on. But there's still like, and much like the rest of us, there's still it's comedic beats. Like at one point when you're traveling around with Gustav and Sophia, you can like go like press square on a building. You hear two people fucking banging over there, and Sophia's like, oh well, some people celebrate other ways, and you're just like, heh. Like for all like the seriousness in this game, it has some very choice like comedic beats. Like almost any time a fucking Gestrel is involved, it's pretty fucking funny. one of my favorite jokes right now is with Monoko. When you go to pick him up, he's like, I don't want to be a part of this. And he's all like, oh, that's a shame. There's going to be a lot of fighting. And he's like, oh man, there was going to be a lot of fighting. Pause the beat. I'm in. Good. It's just like, no.
Yeah, Monoko's a great character in the cast.
No. It's this story is not just a constant depression roller coaster, which I appreciate because we've had some really sad moments. I got to end up to Act 1. I was like, okay, I'm just going to put the game down for a minute. Goodbye.
Yeah. No, man. Like I said, the starting's very strong. Obviously, the iconic moment that most people now know about is the gommage right at the beginning, which is just that was one of the sequences that was just I was literally watching streamers play the game just to get to that point to see how they reacted, because that's just such a moment of cinematography and emotion, and it's just okay, so I'll be thinking about this scene for forever.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a very, very good scene. And like I said, the thing I liked about the prologue is no one actually explains what's going on, which I think is important because everyone knows what's going to happen. You, the viewer, don't know, but everyone else does. And they're kind of trying to be nice and tiptoe around it. They're trying, remember the good times, not the bad times and stuff. So, you're not exactly sure what the gommage is, except that, it's not great. And for some odd reason, we have all these red and white petals, flowers everywhere with a lot of petals. Why? It's that's because everyone's going to turn into fucking petals at the end of this. That's great. Great. Thanks for that. Thanks for having Sophie be the very last person to go as we see everyone else go. And Gustav is, trying to keep it together and barely doing it. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm already ugh. By the way,
No.
if you know some obscure language knowledge, the word gommage is real. It means to erase or exfoliate.
I figured it was something like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, this game is aggressively French, so I'm not necessarily...
It's so French.
It's so French. I like it's French, but it's not afraid to make fun of itself. You get the fucking mime costumes, and it's just, you beat the mime. You get baguette.
Yeah, no, that's... They have a handful of stuff like that. So, some of the costumes you can get, some of the cosmetics you can get are also very funny. I don't think I have them unlocked for everybody, but the memes you may have seen of everybody running around in the French mime costumes, that's because that's a costume you can get in game.
Yeah, that's usually what you get. That's usually what you beat the mimes for. And it's just funny that the mime costumes are just called baguette.
Yeah.
So you get baguette when you get the hairstyle and the head accessory and the clothing. I do want to say I do feel like in combat I felt like something was gonna happen to Gustav anyway, and there was 3 reasons for this. 1, his combat system is super simplified. Everyone else's combat system is built around, this kind of give and take system of, managing resources or skills. Gustav is just, hit enemy, go burr. That's literally
pure
it.
ramp.
Pure ramp. Second, his skill tree was literally, half locked. That was very weird. And thirdly, none of his weapons had any sort of, bonus abilities on them. So I was just all I was looking at him just there's something not right here. He's half a fucking character.
Yeah.
It turns out that...
it's because they had that dramatic moment. It's one of those things where looking at it and I'm there are a couple ways this can go. Well, I mean, a lot of people super praised Charlie Cox's performance as Gustav, and it's he's really good at it. Yeah. I think the other Gustav's character is full of big peak moments. Obviously you have the gommage at the start and then kind of the party after. Then you have that moment of him right after you first arrive and the entire expedition is completely obliterated and he just sits in the pile of corpses and puts his own gun to his head and you see has to have a long think about it.
Well, it wasn't even a long thing. It's just that Lunette just did that moment to appear. That's actually the scene that stuck more with me is the the hopeful thing of yeah, we're gonna get this done to just everything is immediately fucked and Gustav just having nobody and him slowly putting himself together as they try to move forward. God, him just screaming "fuck the mission." That was something else that surprised me. It's like, oh man, we're saying "fuck" in this game. Whoa.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in passing, but yeah, it's very French in that way because they also aggressively curse.
Yes.
There's a lot of merde and putain de merde.
Yeah. So, like, no, like, that, like, really stuck out to me. And seeing Gustav's relationship with, like, all the rest of the characters was, like, really strong because you definitely get the sense of these are people who have done things together. Like, I'm not entirely exactly sure what their, like, relationship is. Like, some of them seem close, some of them kind of not. But you definitely get the feeling that they have been people who have been together for a long time. They are not, strangers meeting in a strange land. They have, history and feelings and thoughts and stuff. And actually, that's something I do feel like kind of like the character acting in this is actually pretty damn amazing. Like we have like Gustav's like big brother vibes, like actual big brother vibes to, Mael and, and comrades to Ciel and Lune. But, like I love like Lune's like awkwardness. She is trying to be, the consummate, professional. She's like very analytical, but sometimes she's also barely keeping it together. And you can see that, like, the fucking conversation with her and Gustav when they're arguing over, like, what they should do, and Gustav is literally just railroading over her, and she's trying to get a word, and I'm just, oh my god. Like, it was so good.
Yeah.
Like,
and like, Ciel's thing of, like, you can tell that she's been through some shit already, which is why she is more, like, relaxed.
Oh, yeah. And stuff.
And then, of course, our boy Ben Stone.
Yes. No, I've gotten to Verso, like I said, I haven't had much time with him. Like I said, I'm only on my way to Old Lumiere, so we've got some stuff. I got some camp scenes. I got the fucking, the Verso magic one where he literally cuts himself in half and walks around. It's, God, it's so hilarious. But, like I said, it's so weird, but it's, God, remember we were talking about that joke, Longatone, of when you kill someone off for dramatic effect, and you bring in their twin brother, so you don't have
the like, which, by the way, that's not just a cliche. That is how I forget what the series is called, but the series that became Voltron, was it Go Lion? Like, literally, they did that. The Blue Lion's pilot dies in episode 1, and they bring in his like identically drawn brother. Like. Yeah, so, like, yeah, it is definitely one of those It is
cliches. Definitely one of those things. And, like, while, like, Goose, like I'll use directly the relationship with, Mael, because I think it's while Gustav's relationship with Gustav was that of, Gustav was both, like, her father and her brother. She says so as much as we're at the grave scene, which was amazing, by the way. I loved it how they kept cutting between the ladies' farewells in that moment. Oh, so good. But Verso, has stepped in, and he's already acting like he's kind of like this uncle figure, like this awkward uncle is all like stuff. So I'm like, I also have some I have some thoughts about Verso, but I'm not entirely sure where they are yet, because like I said, I haven't beat the game yet. But
yeah, I'm a little farther ahead. I'm a couple story beats ahead of you still, so
it's like a thing, but. Like, there is something overarching in this narrative, and I do want to get to the bottom of it, because I have ideas and thoughts and concerns, because, like I said, there's the manor with its paintings, and there's all the painting motifs, and...
Spaces, painting is everywhere. There's those fucking scenes where they suck all the color out of the world, just to make it freakier.
No, like, there's that mysterious girl, and the commander of Expedition Zero, and all... It's like, I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have conjecture and theory. I won't share any of it because, like I said, this game has been out for a long time, and I have avoided spoilers thus far, and I want to keep it that way, and I feel that some people will just have to blurt out things if I start talking about stuff.
Yeah, it's like the same.
What's the term I want to use? Like, try and give me hints without giving me hints. People do that. People like sharing information. I don't want that right now.
God,
I want to find out.
Complete aside, but that reminds me of a crazy story. There's been a very infamous Fortnite leaker out there. I forget their exact handle, but they've been accurately sharing a shitload of stuff way ahead of time. Well, guess what? This week it revealed they were a employee at Epic, and not just any employee. They were a senior member on relationship teams with what's the phrase? Like with their partners with like major corporations and stuff. So like, yeah, no shit. That's what their career is like turbo fuck now. So it's like, why would you do it? Well, people do like to reveal information, and like I said, it's been, not quite a year, but it's been like 8 or 9 months since I played the game, and my thought after playing the opening scenes and the Gomage and later stuff is just like, I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to like talk with Lucky and others about these moments, but I don't want to say anything about them because I don't want to predispose anybody other than that this game has some sauce.
No, like, now that I actually have this game in my hands, I can definitely understand why it's winning. Like, it won a lot of awards. I'm still dying on the hill that it probably should not have won Best Game Direction at the Video Game Awards. Because while this does do very many interesting things, like, just like they said, this game is very much an inspiration, like, pulling inspiration from several other things and making it into this kind of beautiful mess. Like, I was not expecting, like, so many, active time inputs in combat, but here we are. Because, like, I remember hearing about, you can parry and you can dodge, but I didn't know there was, like, the jump and then the parry. There was the gradient parry. I did not, know about all the combat systems in the game and stuff. So no, this game's combat is a lot more sauce than I thought it'd be, but, it's still just, it's a love letter to a lot of other things. Like, one of the things that I found, like, really fucking neat is when you go into some maps, they are put into a fixed camera perspective, like it's like a Final Fantasy VII or a Final Fantasy VIII. So the camera never moves. The camera, you just move around the area for a little bit. It's usually just one room and it has little goodies, but, I see it and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that back in the day.
Yeah, definitely harkening to, like, the backgrounds are not technically what we mean when we say pre-rendered backgrounds, right? Because they're, like, still in engine and Unreal, but it harkens back to fixed camera angles and pre-built stuff. I think a lot of the varieties of enemies, and obviously, like, there's no real need for the world map type stuff.
No, there isn't, but it reminds me of the good old JRPGs when you run around. Like, you're made just a little bit smaller and everything's made a little bit bigger, and so you have this, feeling of, running around the world map. And, like,
and
great.
you gotta, you have your pal Eski to do some tricks for you.
You get your vehicle to, and it gets upgrades.
Yeah, it expands. Reminds me of, Yamaguchi's been talking about the part 3 again. Wutai's going to be a major element, and he did say for sure Rocket Town will be in this part, even though that was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But they're also talking about the High Wind and being like, interviewers are asking, can you take the High Wind anywhere? And he's like, the High Wind is a critical function for the part of the game that we're making in the third one. So you'll be able to do many things. It will be a very important system.
I think that we're probably not going to get the free roam High Wind. You'll just say, free High Wind, take me to this location, and that's what happened.
Well, I mean, honestly, that makes sense.
No.
Because that's technically what you did in, like, obviously you could control it around in the hyperworld map, but, like, what you're literally doing is to do that, you walk up to the pilot and Cloud or whoever's leading the party says, hey, we're going now. And you should be telling them where you fly. So there probably will be like a thing where you talk to a guy and you fly and maybe there'll be animations. In Patron Chat also asked, think we'll be going to space? Funny enough, that was one of the interview questions he was asked and he was like, haha, I can't say for sure, but since we're including Rocket Town, and I'm like, we're going to space. That's Sid's whole thing. We're going to space.
Space!
I would gummy missions. That would be funny, but... Because you only see it in like a couple of cutscenes, but the High Wind is a Shinra military airship. It's actually covered in guns.
No, I'm actually hoping that we might get some combat missions with the High Wind. I'm also hoping that we bring back the, I can't remember the military unit that we became buds with in...
Yeah, that squad. I hope so. The people asked about underwater stuff too, and he was kind of like, haha. Well, we'll have to. We still got that guy who did that design in the office, so we'll have to see if we'll see if we can bring him back for it. So it's like they're so not ready to do any locked in press yet, but like there's so much that he's just like, haha, and I'm just like, yeah, we're gonna go fucking underwater.
No, like I think they gotta hold back until they actually do their official announcement.
I'm so like at the rate we're going, I am so locked in on Summer Games Fest as like that, because like we're doing rounds of press interviews. We so have things to say, but also because we're not officially showing anything yet, there's so much we can't say yet. It's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, no. So to cycle it back to E33 talking about that kind of stuff, right, is like, you go to a world map, you have world map interactions where you get to explore different terrain with, like you said, upgrades, and it's like, that's not needed, but that is such an homage to earlier games. Like, that is how you do it. I would argue that some of your various, like, subsystems that your party members have, like, because everybody has a unique thing, like, many of those are homages to other types of character archetypes you may have seen, right down to Verso's fucking literally Devil May Cry scores.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a wonderful game. There's a lot of very interesting things going on with it, and like I said, I will probably try and catch some more advancement and work on finishing the game now that you're on it, so we can talk about it in full, because it is a really wonderful experience. I've talked before about how, and I want to see how you feel lucky about maybe some of the further on story bosses and stuff. I've talked before about, like, the combat is super in-depth. It is a little bit where, like, I kind of push back on people being like, this is how turn-based games should be. And I'm like, I don't know. When I play turn-based games, I kind of like the idea that they take their turn and I take my turn. The way E33 is built is you take your turn and then you still have to play on the enemy turn, because otherwise they will beat your ass.
It's true.
Which is not necessarily, well, like I said, what I want out of it. Not to say that it's bad. It's just like, it's something you have to get used to. Oh, is Dragon Quest 7 reimagining pretty good? It's good to know. I'm glad they're bringing some of that stuff back. But yeah, so lucky up Claire and his Obscura.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you've noted about the game so far you want to be talking about?
Let's see
Environments are really
here.
cool.
Yeah, environment's pretty good. Art style, character models are fantastic. The characters are fantastic. Music is fantastic. Combat is complex but fun. I also do like this system of, equip and pick those to learn them, and then you can just equip them if you have enough Lumina. Makes me think of Final Fantasy IX. It's really nice.
That's another expiration point. You can also
I think the one thing
upgrade weapons, so you don't necessarily have to ditch a weapon you like.
No, I also like that sometimes you'll just find the upgraded version of the weapon in the field when you monster. Sometimes pick those too. I do think two criticisms I have with this game right now is that weapons, when you level up, you get 3 points to put into stats. But depending on the weapon you are, your stats will scale off of different attributes, and they're never the same. Well, they're sometimes the same attributes, but it's usually 2 attributes, and they could be, any of them, except for might. None of them just scale strictly off of might. I've seen vitality, defense, agility, and luck. And so if you want to try between different weapons to get the maximum out of you have to respec, but while you can get a good amount of the respec on the recoats, they are not infinite per se. And unfortunately, this is lucky having the Mega Elixir problem. I don't want to use things that I might run out of, so I am loath to personally.
Yeah, it's a thing that's
experiment.
It's technically limited, so you don't know. You might, get to the end of the game and decide you have to go for it.
No, it's one of those things, because I do believe, you can usually find them at merchants. You can find them on the ground. I do believe some enemies drop them as well. So if you look around, you can find them, in case you need them. But at that point, I feel like that we shouldn't have, if we truly do not make them a limited resource, then they shouldn't have been a resource in the first place. You should have just been able to respec when you're at camp at any point. So you can, play around.
Honestly,
and figure out things.
Philosophy thing that I've been coming around to, which is I kind of feel like we should just, assuming your game has the memory for it, if you're not supposed to be kind of a every choice matters forever kind of a thing, all video games should just let you respec.
Yes. No, it's I can understand just not respecing in the field or maybe middle of a dungeon or whatever, but definitely back at camp, you go visit the creator and be like, yo, buddy, no face. We're gonna take this from the top. Because it was one of those things, because I got I'm playing Verso here. I've been using this sort of it starts with a G. I can't fucking think of the name. But I beat the duelist or whatever it was, got that sick ass purple sword, and I'm like, oh man, this seems really cool. Then I'm like, wait, no, my stats are completely off for this. I don't think he shares either stats. I think it's defense, vitality, I think, or something. But it's it's it says, you do a normal attack, you get fucking you go again just for free. And I was looking I just got combo attack too. If I put that on, that means I can do 4 fucking attacks. That'd be pretty rad. And I'm like, oh, do I want to respec? What if I don't like it? Then I'll have to respec again to go back. I'm like, that's 2 items.
Yeah.
So no, I do think like the scaling off stats is pretty cool, but because it has things to scale off stats, like if you want to do, like I'm pretty sure if I go online, there are like, actually I probably made this joke like a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure if I go online, like because of how this system is, there are probably like more than half a dozen, how to build like best build guy for X character. And I'm just like, it gives me slight agita. No, but. Other than that, no. The game is like on the lucky scale. It is like purely good to great. Like I said, I don't think like any one part is particularly lacking, and one is I can like just like in the act I am so far, I can already say why this was a game of the year contender. And from what people have said, like you're like what people say, the ride's only gonna get wild over here. So I'm just like, oh, but yeah, I think that's it for right now. Like I said, I've been taking a little bit more time with Clair Obscure. I didn't blast through it like I did Code Vein and Neo 3. But
it is a game that you can both blast and also don't have to blast because there's a lot of stuff to explore and there's a lot of stuff on the map that you can poke and you probably shouldn't poke yet, but you can look at it.
Yeah, no, that's been one of my problems. I'm like, hey, there's a cave over there. I'm gonna go in there. There's a dude there. I'm gonna go say hi. Oh my god, why are the walls closing in on me?
Yep.
Yes, that cave. I've gotten a few levels. I almost beat his ass. Maybe I can do it this time.
Sorry,
but
cough.
yeah, I think that's enough for.
We'll cycle back to this one. Like I said, you'll get through it, and I will put it on my docket to work on. Like I said, I made sure to make sure mine was updated and got it up in my list of games. So we'll go forth with that. In that case, I'll take the ball back for a little bit.
Okie dokie.
Which is to follow up on previous stuff. But hey, everybody, Marathon's out. Came out
yay
technically 2 days ago because the 5th was released, and I did pick it up. Because I was jonesing after the server slam closed. I was like, man, I'm gonna do some Marathon. And like I said, a lot of people are having this experience, and I don't know if I would have it myself with other extraction shooters, but I am very big locked in on Marathon. Mm-hmm. I tweeted it out, and this was not a joke. I said, I dream of Tau Ceti 4, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fucking dreaming about playing Marathon, okay? Guess what? I'm just as successful in my dreams as I am in real life, which is probably like 50-50-ish. But, yeah, so Marathon's out, playing it. I have been able to, in just the couple of days it's been out, to basically get all of my contracts and factions unlocked to where they were in the server slam. I have not really advanced farther than that in terms of gathering lore and getting new stuff. I am not quite, because we're recording a show tonight, I probably could have done it in another couple of hours, but I'm not quite high enough level to access the third map, Outpost, which people are saying is even crazier, but it does have the good shit. That's where you can get some blue and purple stuff, some blurple stuff. But, like I said, was able to access a lot of the stuff I've seen previously and see some of the direction the game is going in. I said that I told Lucky this in the pre-show, but I'll read it again. I think he's correct that so far, in the launch phase, the game is not for him and will probably not be for some other people. The general consensus from people on the internet, from my own experience, is that like it technically you can signal friendly and you can have some stuff go on, and occasionally you get some oddball interactions, but one of the major factions you can level up to unlock your, permanent progression stuff is Arachne, the Death Cult. They exclusively want you to be killing players. The first one you do involves, to unlock their faction involves, dealing damage and downing a runner. The next one to continue their plot line is do the finisher on a downed runner 10 times. And you get EXP for downing runners, finishing runners, and looting their boxes in the faction. So like that there is a if every faction represents a even percentage of what this game wants you to be doing, that means killing other players is approximately 1/6. Now there are some, like I have seen some, funny stories where like there's one, internet video or picture going around which is like, yes, I just had a lobby where everybody extracted, nobody killed each other, the entire lobby extracted together. And it's like, yeah, once in a blue moon, you might get a little funny like that, but usually people are not teaming up. We'll see when the Cryo Archive comes out. That's gonna be the real shit. That's the Cryo Storage Archives inside the UESC Marathon, and that's where the fucking SFIT compilers and the aliens are gonna come out. So, we'll see how people feel about collaborating then. But that's a thing that's going to be like slowly rolled out as players rank up and as players explore areas. They've already started doing, their little bits of lore drops. There are now classic Marathon terminals. The original Marathon terminals are now active in the maps, and you can apparently find and do them to get a little bit of lore and to set up some future stuff, So, like, the storytelling is already started, but your storytelling can be really annoying. I'll tell a story of today. I got a priority contract, the level of a faction involved. Go to this place, do these 2 things, go to another place, do this 3rd thing, exfil successfully, all in one run. One of those places is the fucking cargo hauler in Perimeter, which is hell. In the previous betas, the server slam, and now in the main game, hauler is known as one of the danger spots on Perimeter. If you ever don't feel like you're getting enough PvP, rush hauler. There's good loot that is only in hauler that you need for upgrades that I am still trying to fucking gather. But hauler is usually full of UESC devils, full of the robotic spawn of Satan. But also, it's a place where players tend to gather, and it's a cramped interior map with, stark red lighting, so it's usually a chaotic time. So I do all of that, right? I get to the exfil, it literally starts the countdown. Another player, kills me at the last second because I have a bad habit where, well, I say a bad habit, but it usually fucks me over. I have a habit where I will hesitate just a little bit when I see another guy, so they won the shootout, and they were able to finish me off with literally 0 seconds left, and I did not extract successfully. And I don't care about losing the shit. I did the server slam for so many days, and I've been playing the real game. I don't give a shit about losing my stuff. I just have, whites and greens. Maybe when I get some real shit, I'll care, but I'm just trying to scrape together enough loot to, buy more space in my fucking vault in the future capitalist hellscape where my dreams of immortality to live shiny and chrome require a fucking 4-step payment plan with Syak. The writing and the character stuff and the graphic design in Marathon is still super good, gang. Oh, actually, I should mention this. People have discovered now the full game is out. Hey, the person who was involved in the plagiarism case, the artist who had their work stolen and misappropriated for the early versions of Marathon, is in the credits as a design consultant. So, I don't know if that is part of the court settlement, was that they got credited, or that was just something, Bungie decided to do on their own, but regardless, it is a thing that they went from their work was stolen to now the Marathon game, credits them as a design consultant and inspiration. It is officially yeah, that came from them. We're not saying we made this. They did that, which is a nice touch. And like I said, it could just be that was part of the settlement that they did, but it's still that, Bungie accepted those terms. But yeah, so I got killed at the last second, didn't complete my fucking goal, had to do it all again. And it's you're gonna get some runs like that, but I don't know. There's just something about, the expansive environments, the dark rain, the thunder booming, wading through the dire marsh. I've heard people describe it as and I've done some crew fill rando jobs, most of which have actually gone okay. Sometimes people are chatty, sometimes people are just silent schmoovers. What I've learned is if you're filling with randoms, just no matter what, do the same old rules, stick together. Just kind of, ping some stuff, be alert, don't wander into anything that's an obvious fucking trap. But people are describing, 3 stacks are it's almost like a PvP arena shooter. It's like playing the finals, where it's just if you see another team, you're gonna fucking shoot, so don't bother. Slug it out with environments and others. When you're playing solo lobbies, this shit's a survival horror game. Except that there are, occasionally other humans who will pull the trigger on you. In addition to, again, like I said, I personally think that we should all put aside our differences and gang up on the real enemy, the UESC. But
Yeah, good luck with that.
there are other people who don't subscribe to my theory. There are some people who are diehard Arachne who are we're going to explore the kinesis of thermodynamics. We must explore the barrier between life and death together. And I gotta level up so I can access Outpost, because I can't unlock the final faction, Sekiguchi, until then. But I guess, technically been spoiled, but it's been revealed to me who the Sakaguchi representative is. I assume it's a her, but their name is Nona, or Noma. They are a worm. They are a weave worm. Or at least their avatar is, so I'm like, man, I kind of want to hang out with the worm. Apparently one of the Sakaguchi contracts, I don't know if it's priority or normal, you can get is to test your limits. It's to overheat yourself, take fall damage, like, stress test your shell. Like, so there's a lot to unpack in Marathon. There's a lot going on there, and I'm having a good time. There's a couple of things I've noticed from the beta that are different, that I'm not sure if that was due to feedback or just they planned it all along. I mentioned during the server slam that I think you should have access to Rook earlier. Well, when I booted it up, you can access Rook like right away in at server level 1. Okay. So, you can, if you need to, you can immediately start to scavenge for resources. I think that's kind of the purpose of Rook, is to enter maps that are underpopulated and look for salvage, whether that's to look for dead players and get their gear, or to, gather up loot that other people don't, because you'd have to exchange a lot of loot to get your permanent upgrades. I know I'm doing that, like, right now, as I'm farming materials for certain upgrade skis that I would like. I would like the ability to, buy shields in store, kind of a thing, get a free shield daily, kind of a bit, and other upgrades like that. And you gotta trade salvage for that, makes sense. I will say, so usually when you're playing a Rook run, that's really a survival horror experience, because you never know how trigger happy the other runners are going to be. Usually they don't want to see them. And the UAC will still plug you if you don't have your signal masking up. Rook is one of the runs where I had a straight up friendly experience, though, where, like, I got to extract, I popped it, a guy jumped out, and I took a couple of pot shots but didn't hit. And then I realized it was another Rook, and I was like, oh, shit. And I, tabbed friendly, just on the auto chat. They tabbed thanks back that I stopped shooting, and we just extracted together, because we were both there for the same thing. So, just a little bit of cooperation is out there, and like I said, you gotta remember, guys, this is Bungie. These are the guys who made Destiny and Destiny 2, where they have some, real-ass raids with, raid mechanics. I gotta wonder that, if some people's opinions are gonna change about working together with other teams when, again, literal fucking demons from beyond the stars start crawling out of the Marathon, shooting lasers out of their cloaks at you. Also, by the way, the SFIT compilers can turn invisible in the game and other shit. I've said this before. If I hear the main enemy in Marathon 1 is called the 4, if I hear their little greeble gobble sounds in Marathon 2026, I'm gonna freak, because they have a very, very signature sound they make when they see you or start moving. It's kind of, and I'm just like, if I hear that shit, I'm not gonna be okay. They got Codex articles talking about the Bobs, the Born on Boards, who were the, human randos, who I have lots of deep-seated memories about, because they ran around chaotically yelling stuff like, they're everywhere! They're all over me! And then in later Marathon games, your enemies turn the Bobs into suicide bombers, so they're like, thank goodness you're here! And then they run up to you and they fucking detonate like a grenade. The classic Marathon games are kind of fucked up. And if you're thirsting for some of that Marathon lore, but you do not want to play a $40 extraction shooter where other players will skin you alive just to watch you bleed blue, all of the classic Marathon trilogy is free on Steam. It was ported to Windows through a program called Aleph1, and a couple of years ago now, I believe Bungie officially endorsed Aleph1, bundled that together, and released them for free on the Steam storefront. So you can play the original Marathon anytime you like. I haven't done it myself, because the original Marathon is a Bungie first-person shooter, and it kicked my ass as a kid. And, unfortunately, Marathon 1 has a reputation for... Marathon 1 has literally non-Euclidean maps, chat. The way the map models and the map textures are built, they can literally have maps go, under or through themselves without ever actually crossing over. So they're a little fucked up in the head. But yeah, I'm having a fun time with Marathon, and like I said, I don't know, there's just something about it. Maybe it's just because I have such, deep core memories about the original Marathon, and then obviously followed Bungie to Halo later, followed them to Destiny 1 and 2. They got some stuff. They got some sauce. And they still got a little bit of sauce. A lot of people are making actually, it doesn't remind me. Before I move on to that, I should say, also they did, the full game comes with the 6th runner who wasn't in the beta, Thief. Haven't got to play her much, but she seems pretty cool. Her main abilities is, one, she has a grapple hook, so you have mobility tech. But also, it has hover jets in it, so you can grapple to just middle air. Like, the grapple hook goes as far as it goes, and then you grapple that point. If that's not like a surface, you just air dash, basically. Her ultimate, her big strategic ability is she has a little remote stealing drone that you actually, like, fly around in person. Range seems a little short, but it is supposed to be used less for scouting and more for, like, accessing containers or even pinching gear from other players, because you can grab, like, stuff out of their backpack, like, without having to expose yourself to direct fire. She also has an X-ray visor, which shows you containers through walls, and will let you know what the highest tier of loot in it is. So if it's, the container's green, if there's green loot in it, if it's blue, there's blue, etc. I believe it does work on player backpacks if they have some stuff in it. So, like, she's got some interesting stuff. And I believe they've already shown a basic roadmap, so we're probably going to unlock Cryo Archive later in March. After, I want to say, a couple of months, there will be a big story event to cap off the season. Then they will season reset, and they've already talked about what the next season will be. It will release with a new runner, which will be free if you've bought the game. The only things that are premium currency are cosmetics, so nothing to worry about pay to win. But they've already said that their second season will be called Nightfall, and it will include, like, night versions of maps, which I'm already like, don't tell me that shit. It's gonna be Dire Marsh at night. I don't want to hear that. Bungie, what are you doing? What are you doing to me? But yeah, it seems nice. And I'm going to say, there's been some talk, like, kind of back and forth about, like, oh, is the Steam concurrence too low kind of a thing. But it's got, like, a 91% positive rating on Steam. It's, like, 4.8 on PlayStation Store, Like, the people who are buying it and playing it seem to be liking it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good to know. It's probably because they did the server slam so people could test it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Which is always good.
Actually, how is it rating? I'm curious.
Yeah, I have to double check. Like I said, I think they're like 91% positive. But also, that's Steam reviews. That was a stat like earlier today, so it could be different by now. But people seem to be enjoying it and reviewing well. Some people have kind of like tried to build a conspiracy theory over. Bungie has asked outlets to hold off on their reviews until some more content is accessible. But it's not an embargo. They're just saying that, like, hey, you're not going to experience everything our game has to offer unless you wait for, like, Outpost to unlock on the Cryo Archive. So if you want to write a review, wait until you can see some of the stuff we've got cooking. So, like, there is still some, I don't know, like, what the like, overall ratings are like on, like, Metacritic.
Well, the critic reviews aren't on it, but this shit is fucking wild. It has a 4.5 on Metacritic, but that's because, and it's weird because I'm seeing 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 0, 0, 10, 0, 8, 10, 0, 0, 1, 2, 8, 1, 0,
yeah, that's
0.
Unfortunately, 10. Culture war bullshit.
0. It's like,
either you love Marathon or hate Marathon.
Like, this is, oh god, this is like, I was actually seeing something about, this is why you should not turn to normal people for, like, critical reviews and stuff. They will just put out the first thought that goes into their fucking head, whether good or ill, and think, and I'm just like, because I could say right now, like, I'm not a fan of Marathon. It is not my game. I wouldn't give it a 0.
No, I'd probably give it. Yeah, that's what I said. You wouldn't give it a 0. You just, it's not like for you, but the game is well made.
Yeah, it's like a 6 or a 7 in my opinion. It's like,
I like Marathon. I don't think I'd give it a 10. I'd probably be like an 8. I would be like, I like this, but also I'm, lying dead, bleeding out in Dire Marsh again. Like,
it's one of those things. I'm all like, people are like, oh god, it's like, it's so extreme for no other reason than people is just,
and that's weird. Like I said, not to dive too deep, but like there is a whole weird, like I said, culture war bullshit to this. Like I don't get it. Maybe I'm too libbed up. Maybe I'm too dark woke or something. But like,
dark woke.
I don't actually, like, people are like, Marathon's woke, DEI, and I'm like, what? Huh?
What does that mean?
I don't understand what that means in this context.
I really don't.
Like, I don't get it. They employ people who are not, John Smith white boy at Bungie? Yeah, lots of people do that. That doesn't really mean anything to me. The voice cast is all over the place. They have, people of all ethnicities. I think the voice cast is super cool. Like I said, Ben Starr is Durandal. That's really cool. Rook and the Assassin Shell are both Elias Tufexis, who is also the game's voice director. He was Adam Jensen. Vandal is Erica Lindbeck, I believe. And lots of other fun voice actors out there. I've heard some people making some jokes that, like, remember winning Game of the Year doesn't have anything to do with scores or skill. It has to do if you hired Jennifer English to be your voice actor, because she's in Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, and Clair Obscure. And she is also Joy in Marathon, so we'll see. There's a lot of people trying to make this about Marathon versus ARC Raiders, and I think there is some interesting conversation there, but like the general consensus from people who know Ball seems to be that ARC Raiders is a game which is like, I think I heard somebody describe it as, ARC Raiders is a PvE server that just happens to have friendly fire turned on. You can shoot other people if you want, but you don't always be doing that. Whereas Marathon, like I said, is like, if you see another runner, you shoot first and then go, hey, well, can we talk about this? Now that the bullets have left my gun, do we actually want to fight? You know, kind of a thing. But also some people are already commenting on how it's a little weird. You know, Arc Raiders is a game that costs $40 and it has, you know, AI-generated voice clips, and that's a little odd compared to Marathon has, you know, high-caliber professional voice actors in the cast doing their work. You know, they're very different feels, and like, honestly, I think that's kind of the position we're gonna end up in, which is like, they are truly gonna be separate fandoms because they are doing very different things. I don't even know what like the storytelling and world famous for ARGs, their alternate reality games back in the day. Don't know how many of you remember the Halo ARGs, but they were a big deal. I Heart Bees and shit like that, which is for Halo 2 or was it Halo 3? But like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So they're very different, but like I said, there's a lot of people kind of like banging back and forth, and this 0-10 thing on Metacritic feels like it's just more of that. I will say that, and it could just be, you know, the For You page filters, but I was pretty actively engaged with Highguard stuff before it came out because I was like following people and like clicking on links that were like, oh, still haven't heard anything about Highguard. Is this game actually going to come out? You know, kind of a thing. I didn't really see a lot of fan art about it. Well, I'll put it this way, chat. The internet is horny for Marathon.
I'm not surprised.
We're already seeing unbelievable generational fan arts posted. I think I already saw somebody be like, okay, you know Marathon's for real because I just saw someone do self-cessed polycule art. You know, 3 recons, you know, posing together suggestively type stuff. Like, Marathon's hitting the cultural zeitgeist a little different, and that's neat. And I wish it a healthy life. Like I said, I am just a personal player. I am never not going to be out here being like, there's so much potential for just PvE out here that I'm like, I'm never not going to be like, hey, they should add some kind of like special PvE only mode. Like, you know, whether that's just you and your team of 3 versus the world kind of a thing, or specifically if they're like co-op lobbies. But for now, I'm not as burned by the PvP stuff as I thought I would be. Like I said, I'm having fun. I probably won't play anymore tonight because it's almost 1 a.m., but we'll clock in some more tomorrow. Before movie night, which we have decided through a masterful scientific method, which was, we joked about it during Rain. Let's go ahead and set up my second segue. We're going to do The Mummy.
Yeah.
Because we just... and I want to say this. Not for nothing, like, I wasn't really looking at the Discord go by when I was doing that box text, but I'm like, no, I'm a huge fan of The Mummy, so yeah, absolutely, that's correct to make some gags about it. But yeah, we'll do The Mummy.
Yeah.
And then The Mummy Returns. We will not do Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Why? It's not canon anymore. Throwing that shit out.
I'm still a little weird about CG Dwayne Johnson, but we'll get there when we get there.
It was very revolutionary for the time.
It is not.
But yeah, it is. That guy's fucking face is burned into my brain.
Scorpion King.
But yeah, also, actually, if you didn't know that, first of all, Brendan Fraser is back into acting. He's already walking up the awards. But apparently, after his big comeback, one of the first projects he locked in on is he's doing another Mummy movie, the 4th for him. But this time, Rachel Weisz is coming back, so we're going to ignore the one where they recast her.
Rad.
So yeah, it seems like they're you know, we're getting a 4th Mummy and we're bringing back the old band.
You mean a 3rd Mummy?
Yes, technically now a third, 4th. We've had 1st, 3rd. What about 2nd, 3rd movie? But that was also a segue to
talk about Rain.
Yes, correct. I was going to say something much stupider and more nonsensical, but I stopped myself. Probably something like Yatterbox, Chatter Yap, and I'm just like, no, that's not good. Sometimes, chat, you just have to tell yourself, no, that was not a good one.
It's like, that wasn't it.
No, that wasn't it, fame. But yeah, Ring. 71 was posted last week. We had a mailbag about it earlier. I just posted 72 today. I think I called that Pastoral Scene. Because no, I think it was a good paced one. First of all, we chewed through, we did start with the back half of the weekend of the previous session, catching up on some stuff from 71, but we blew through like most of the week, 4 or 5 days at a pretty good pace, I think.
Yeah, like, oh god, so what all did we do? It was...
So, still on the Saturday, the day, or actually it would be Sunday, because it would be days, well, actually, no, I think technically we start with Sunday, because it's Souls Day, so we're the calendar of Troika is that way, where Sunday's the first one. But we started on the same day as the tournament. We did the Masters bracket, which had, a couple more, interesting scenes and matchups to see.
Mm-hmm.
That one is like, I will say, a little, looking back at myself, I don't know how rad the players thought it was. I definitely kind of felt like it seemed cooler in my head, and I probably could have written prose that would have been more interesting, but it was a thing that no matter what had to happen, so, hopefully it was neat to watch.
It wasn't boring, I'll say that much.
That's good, I'm glad. Because it was just kind of me talking about me for a little bit. Then, you guys basically did your post-game carnage. Nicola and Conrad had their moment of punching.
Mm-hmm. A punching.
Which is a good bracing round of punching and talking.
Yeah.
Enos had a series of not scenes, but talks.
Yeah, we got some exposition out of the way.
You presented your gift to a lot of exposition. You presented your gift to Noctiluca and worked through, obviously, those character beats you've been working towards. But then you talked to Paz and Ramil with Aurelia there, and that was like multifold. We did sort out the conversation about who knows what about what, and and cycle that through.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually asked Ramil about stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, let me lay him on you." So the Enos, I should say, and Aurelia and the players learned a lot about kind of the origins of the Desert Kith and how they feel about stuff and what their kind of personal mythology is.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. Big primordial one, lots of walking, lots of talking. But no, definitely has helped set up our, our own, I don't want to say like archaeological adventure, because it's not really archaeology. It's just kind of going to place and being like, hey, what's going on here?
Well, and certainly you'll be exploring, you'll be investigating.
Yeah. Did have a nice follow-up conversation there after that, to get some conversation with Nicola about what's going on with him, which was very well timed in my opinion.
No, that one was kind of pitch perfect, yeah. Because it started with the slightly tense because they were hitting each other interaction between Nicola and Conrad, and then when they stop hitting each other and they kind of break into the scene, you also popped up, which kind of let it turned it from a one-on-one conversation to more of a triangle, because that means that each character and each player could lean on the other two characters, which when we have 5 players, so that means you've got that kind of like sequence of evens and odds dynamics. You can do a lot of different scenes that way. Obviously, when you're all together, that's 5-man band, a 5-stack. But then you can have 4, so you can have 2 pairs, and we can have one-on-one stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a lot of good moments to kind of discuss about Nicola, and we'll get some more Nicola next time too, because he's also got his other project thing he's working on. But
yes.
I appreciate Dallas as a player, because while we do have some things where it's like, we did have to plumb the depths of our memory a couple of times in the past session to kind of like figure out where we talked about what, including like one moment where we were like, oh, right, this conversation with Paz was like a long time ago, and then there wasn't a separate conversation here. So, and you did bring up the thing you talked about on the podcast last week, and then also you talked about it there, where like, you don't necessarily want to be like, well, I meant to do this, so we'll just retcon it and be kind of like let us actively make decisions, good or bad, kind of in the moment.
Yeah.
And like I said, Dallas isn't always the most directed player. He's got a busy life. He's not always accessible. He did eventually get back to us with some questions that were asked of him, but it took him a while.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to do his Fairy Queen thing because he was feeling a little sick, and he was like, what I was going to say at first was praise Dallas for being like, Dallas is one of those guys who's like, no, I have a big role play in mind. I want to make sure I'm in the right frame of mind to hit this scene. But the other thing I was gonna praise Dallas for, amongst our occasional criticisms, Dallas, you occasionally have to praise after the criticism, which is that Dallas
stick,
also is when you actually talk about stuff with him, he's usually pretty good at kind of like either talking things out or acquiescing. You brought this point up to him of like, well, I don't want us to constantly be retconning ourselves just so we don't we retcon our way out of like tension or drama or just something interesting happening. Dallas was kind of like, okay, sure. I didn't say it. Yeah. I don't explicitly remember saying it, so I didn't do it. I just kind of, thumbs up and move on. Like I said, Dallas is usually pretty easygoing when it comes to the other characters. Nicola has his own foibles, but Dallas is usually pretty open to, including getting, punched in the head and the gut and the gut head.
Gut head.
But yeah, that was a good sequence. And then we kind of quickly moved on.
We did.
To your relaxation week.
Yeah.
Got to talk a little bit about hunting. And it's one of those things where, like, I was pretty sure the direction you guys would go, which is I would just mention to you that, like, yeah, deer hunting is kind of the classical high stakes thing, and I did a little research into the way you hunted deer in the pre-industrial era, the Renaissance and medieval. We learned some cool things. I believe you were audibly, kind of interested in the fact that, like, oh, you dismount to fight the deer on foot.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
And I mentioned this to you in the episode, and I'll mention it again to the listeners here. That's the thing I learned from research. I think there's a reason why even today we have rules about like sportsmanship in hunting. Because that's when you're not doing the old, American exceptionalism thing where it's how many buffalo can we kill in one day? Well, how many bullets do I have? Like, humans are very sporting about hunting. If you were on a medieval deer hunt, you would run the deer down. You would then hold back the dogs, get off your horse, and engage the deer mano a mano. Historically, that's also what you did with boar hunting, though you might let the dogs have a little nibble first because boars are bad news. I've shown the picture before, but even bear hunting was kind of that way of like, yeah, sometimes you'd armor up, but like, if you were hunting a bear, guys were crazy enough to be like, all right, well, I gotta take this bear, 1-to-1 with a sword.
That's how you get eaten by a bear.
True. Which is why, bears, boars, and deers are such, classical monsters of mythology, I think. I think the only animal I mentioned that's kind of disrespected as far as is wolves is just... It's very funny because humans love dogs. Like, humans are such suckers for dogs. Humans, at least like in medieval Europe, we didn't fuck around with wolves. You got a wolf, gotta get that guy out of here. I talked about, like, criminals paying fines in, like, wolf pelts or wolf tongues instead of cash. It was a public service. But yeah, I kind of figured you guys would go deer hunting. I offered some other options. I even, I did broach that, like, you could look for a monstrum if you wanted, but you were like, nah. It's okay, the Fairy Queen would have bailed you out if you were in trouble. Could have had her suplex a demon boar. But, like I said, in character, you made the decision to be like, no, we don't want to fuck with that.
No.
So I think it was a good sequence. The characters got their moments. We got to talk about the stuff, and the second day in that sequence was the outdoor luncheon, which was also again pretty brief, but was
it was picturesque.
Yes, it was picturesque. It was literally pastoral, and I think it had the vibes that you were going for when you guys scheduled it, which was like, we want this last week to involve some more relaxing moments, some things to make it feel more vacation-y.
Yeah.
And I think it had that vibe. It felt kind of, relaxing, less stressful, interpersonal. And if you ever want to reminisce about it, like I said, the Princess Estelle, got out some paints and painted some scenes.
Rad.
Took some sketches. So that means there'll be some pictures somewhere that you guys can look wistfully at.
Oh, remember when things were much more simple? We say as war rages around the country.
Yep.
But yes, no, it was a very... Like, I don't know, I don't think, like, the session had any particular, like, super, like, dramatic highs in that, but it was still very good overall. Like I said, I am excited for next session, though, this weekend, because it was actually something that was actually a little funny. I think Axe has been trying to set some things up between, him and Arissa. I won't necessarily, get into what, because I'm still not entirely sure. But, I think Axe, as Leslock, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting my names right. I'm really bad with Leslock, Logash, and Noctiluca and Narissa, and I don't know why.
It's probably mostly just the first letter, because Noctiluca and Narissa are not really that close. Noctiluca has a lot of syllables.
It's true.
Leslock Logesh is something that, like, I mean, they have the same number of letters, I'm pretty sure. Like, that one's much more understandable, and we have been doing that for fucking 72 episodes, off and on. Actually, X is correct. Like, Narissa and Noctiluca do start and end on the same sound, but there's a little bit of extra shit in the middle. Yeah, Leslock and Logesh are different phonetically, but, like, they still start with L, and like I said, they're about the same number of... Yeah, they are the same number of letters. Same number of syllables, too, I think? Logesh.
Yeah, the syllables.
Leslock. Yeah. So, like, different kind of alliteration.
But, Axe was like, basically alluded to that he might, like, try to ask a question of Enos, and that got me thinking on, like, right, how would Enos answer that? Well, first, Enos is going to be evasive about it, so, I pre-warned Axe about that, so he did not just feel immediately shut down when I did.
No, that's a good one to preface it being like, well, in character I would be evasive, but, don't let me, you can press.
Yes.
And I think that's why a while ago Axe brought it up, not just about, like, Enos, he did pitch it to the whole, a couple of these questions to the whole squad.
Yeah. But, Lucky did his favorite things. I stood in the shower and I thought about shit and realized that this question is actually very important to, Enos' entire character. And I was like, well, shit. You've mentioned this to X. Like, we're not going to try and, like, force it, but I think it will be a very natural thing to come up during the next session. So we'll get to get those sequences. Yeah, so I had to make sure that I had all those ducks in a row, and I had to go prep an NPC, potentially. Which I was glad that was them, because I basically yesterday just came out, I was like, Omega, I need an NPC, and I need Enos to own property. Is there anything in the rules that, like, prevents that? And you're just like, nah, do it. And I was like, perf.
Yeah, I was like, we don't have, like, I brought up, like, we don't really have, like, a contact, like, rule. That's a thing that, in some systems, like World of Darkness and stuff, you can have, like, a stat or skill or special thing you can put money in to be like, I can just invent NPCs, but I'm like, you guys run a company in game mechanics terms, like, you can just know people if they're in your backstory, and this is kind of, the gang doesn't always use it this way, but this was supposed to be part of the idea behind the 3-year time skip, was, like, you guys could cycle it out, and, like, could have used that time to pick up some new NPCs, like, if Leslock ever needed to reference, like, his tutors, whether that's in, politics or swordsmanship or whatever, we knew he was being educated for, like, 3 years. Nicola already references his time at the Alchemical College and stuff out there, and so on. And you've alluded to a couple of characters you've known over the time skip, like your Chainmaster, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this, Axe is saying should have thought of tutors. Like, you don't have to. That's like, there are already so many characters that I have to give names and descriptions to just by virtue of you're in a pretty big, expansive setting where there's lots of people in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have an idea to have a character, like, obviously Lucky asked this because he's like, okay, to answer this question and to get into these backstory details, I have a very specific NPC in mind. Like, it is a very specific backstory thing I need, and I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. And we even, like, had some back and forth about, like, detail work.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, if these things don't come up, you do not have to enforce them, because we're 72 sessions into this game. Boy, howdy, we do not need to be adding NPCs to add NPCs.
No, like, I was actually thinking about if this person actually needed to be an NPC, and I was like, no, because it's, like I said, this character is also how Enos learned Courtesan's Fortune, which is, an esoteric, which has 5 steps, which he's only at 3. I don't see Enos necessarily getting the last 2, but, having a person that is like, yes, this is where I learned it from, and adding, like, maybe connection with, like, some other things that may come up here. Because, who knows, maybe there might be some benefit to, having, VIP access to, a high-class bordello in fucking Stonehearth. Who fucking knows? It was just one of those things that, in the shower I was thinking about. It's like, yeah, no, I need this. And, like I said, I'm very glad for it. I'm actually, like, very excited to, like, bring up this story. Like, I'm gonna do, like, I'm already, like, been considering, like, how to bring it up. Like, if Leslock, sorry, brings it up, I'm always going to preface it, like, Enos is going to give, like, a very short and quick answer, and then I'm going to immediately respond, like, so Enos is given a very short and quick answer. If you think that you're not satisfied with that answer, please roll empathy. Otherwise we move on. Because, like, I'm not gonna try to force the game to explore Enos' backstory, but if...
And I think the players will be interested in that. I already know that in previous sessions, Conrad's been talking about need to roll empathy on characters more, trying to figure out if they're lying or concealing things to get them out there. Because that's the thing we've talked about. Like, Conrad as a character has kind of like been going through arcs and like is reaching a point where he's like, Conrad I think is developing enough self-awareness to realize that like, oh, my family, my close personal comrades are like concealing things and burying them deep down. That I both should and want to know about. I should figure out if I can learn more about this so I don't have to keep taking them to punch therapy. I feel like Leslock and Enos were a little more playful in like the pre-time skip, and then things got everybody got real serious in the post-time skip.
Oh yeah.
See, depending on things, can even have Enos roll some things to see if he can figure out, where some of this is coming from. We'll see. And then, some of the other characters are going to be absolutely surprised. I imagine that at the conversation, Nicola will either like hide in the fucking bath or just be like, "I need to be excused. I'm too embarrassed to have this conversation." Like, it sounds like Enos will be a little embarrassed to have the conversation, but he's mostly just gonna blow it off,
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get to the juice. We'll have to be very careful to make sure if Loth makes jokes out of character versus in character, because he's making them in character. We should absolutely get Logesh back.
Oh,
because there's no way that guy's gotten laid. I'll say it.
That is one of the questions that I was probably going to ask. Like I'm pretty sure Logesh nor Leslock has probably been to House Passion, but maybe Conrad? I don't know.
I mean, Conrad might have tagged along with you. I feel like, again, Conrad would probably be a little too embarrassed and proper to, like, make any moves.
No, Enos would be like, no, man. Listen, if you want to be able to please a woman, you have to know how to please a woman. They will teach you. I don't know why I got so fucking...
I know 100% that Nicola has it, mostly because of his horrible, crippling, like self-esteem shit. Like, he only got his robot hand this year, in the past, 3 months.
If this was in character, Enos would absolutely slap the Marquess for calling it random sexual activities with a random woman. Remember that thing we talk about you being condescending in everyday speech?
I think that's kind of the tone Leslick would take. Logesh just wouldn't think about it because it's not playing Quattrum and it's not hitting things with a bardiche.
I was actually having this thought. It's all like, what if I found a woman that would play Quattrum with him?
I mean, I think that would work, and the lady would probably go for that because then she doesn't have to do any of the messy parts. Because I think they would just not. I think it would just go beyond playing Quattrum.
No,
but you get Logesh to invent. You've heard of chess boxing, invent Quattrum boxing. And honestly, you guys may, I'll let you guys decide in the moment. You guys may or may not want to include, Big Britches NPCs with you. Like, obviously, Everhelm Ferran is probably going to be there because he is the Marquis's cavalier. And when you guys are sitting, naked or in towels in a sauna.
Oh no, I've already decided on some jokes about the sauna. It's like, rules of the sauna. All men are equal in the sauna.
Honestly, that sounds like just a good, joking aside, that sounds like a good cultural quality. Like, that sounds like something you guys would do, which is just like, no, listen, we're all naked and sweaty in the sauna. Everybody is an equal here.
What is said in the sauna stays in the sauna.
There are no weapons inside the sauna. So yeah, definitely that kind of a thing. You could invite Kefis. Like I said, we'll see if there are any NPCs, but I think it will be a good moment to actually, because this is a thing you were also talking about, probably not necessarily for next session, because I'm sure that we will fill the entire airtime with doing Summer Court things. But you're already like, okay, after Summer Court, we probably need to have another team meeting.
Nah.
We need to have a team huddle. We need to discuss in and out of character not what we're doing, but how we're gonna do it, kind of a thing, like what order.
Yeah, no. Again, I've learned I'm still maintaining my lesson from last time that we do not need to be getting into nitty-gritty details. But we still need to manage our workflow, as it were.
Yeah, just because, like I said, you need to make decisions on what order you do things. I think we crystallized your immediate next decision pretty good, which is like, okay, the Princely Grand Tour is happening, no matter what. You guys are locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure you're locked in to have the whole royal family staying over. You're going to use that as cover for a Fogvale pop. what order do we do that in? Do we do the sightseeing part, which is still, part of the formality first? Or do we do the Fogvale stuff first?
Mm-hmm.
Which order do we do it in? They both have pros and cons. It will, probably, what would we say? It will work out no matter which order you pick. Like, I think we'll still hit the things I'm thinking of and you're thinking of. It just will change the flavor a little and may involve different scene beats. Like we were talking about how, like, if you go to the Fogvale right away, you guys might be camped out there for a couple of days kind of doing nothing because, news hasn't had time to circulate.
Yeah.
If you send messengers ahead and go later, then we can probably arrange a much more swift meeting. I think in my mind I've decided the meeting will occur no matter what. And originally I think I was thinking that I would be a little hesitant about, geography, I should say, wise, like having representatives of each of the sanctuaries there. But now that I'm like in the gritty of thinking about it, I'm like, no, I think I want that to happen because I wanna set up characters and I want to set up like beats for future, show you a slice of each of these different sub factions and kind of what their deal is and go on from there. Because I want to, sometimes you must set aside realism in order to build better storytelling. And I'm much more interested in if the players or the player characters latch on to any of the sanctuaries and their individual stories and like characters and want to pursue more rather than, well, the guys in Frostvad, the ice one in the north, they couldn't possibly have come down the mountain and hiked all the way down here in just 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't actually care about that.
Yeah, that's what, like, actually, I'm going to be real. That was kind of my concern of, like, why I wanted to do, like, maybe get them ahead of time so everyone. But if you're like, nah, it doesn't
I'll
matter.
probably make it so no matter what, you'll meet them. But like I said, you and the crew raised a point about, like, if you go right away, you probably would have a couple of days of downtime in the Fogvale. Now, you could utilize that. You might use that to start preparing the keep, and secure it. You might, look around for stuff. Maybe, Enos could see if the pirate's gold is all still there. I was going to make a crack about Enos could dive to see if there was any gold left in the ruin of the Foxhound, but then I was like, wait, no, Enos doesn't swim. He wouldn't do that. Somebody else could go diving in the bay for gold.
Actually, I think I could just use... Wait, could I just use... What's the name of the spell? The one where I asked Dea Tacita, where's treasure?
Also true, actually. You could reveal it. Like I said, you wouldn't do the diving yourself, but you could stand on the dock and be like, yo, treasure?
Mm-hmm.
And just, a blinking quest icon would appear over it. Ba-ding!
Rad. But no. So no, there's also some things like before that I get started. Like, we are going to have like our sauna trip. Enos does have to run up to the Dragon's Eye because one of the things I was thinking about, because I wanted to check on like the records of the hidden stair and also, what the Iron Demon's actual holdings in the Fogvale were previously.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the last time you went to the Dragon's Eye, that was one of the things you wanted to do, but that was also a goop session. I think I literally talked about this in my notes for the sauna trip. I literally copy and pasted my box text about Drakesboro from earlier because I'm like, I don't actually remember how much of the gang remembers this stuff.
I don't remember that much. I'm gonna be honest.
The group was having a weird one that day.
We probably should go over it again. Like, I remember there's a mayor. I remember my actual cousin was there.
Yep, and the Hellions. If I start describing it, you guys might vaguely remember some of the landmarks, but yeah, there's some stuff to be had in that discussion. And then, yes, like I said, I'm pretty sure at some point Enos meant earlier than now to ask about the hidden stair, but your actual trip to the Dragon's Eye ended up being, like, mostly, actually meeting your, mother and sisters on screen, jawing with your dad about some stuff, and then, doing much more spiritually things.
Shit, I need to get my sister something.
I mean, that's one I will allow. Like, you've had access to the Great Norlon Fair, for like a whole week. Mm-hmm. You could absolutely find some stuff. Just figure out what your sisters would be interested in. Pigments.
Ask Aurelia. Aurelia, what would young spoiled girls be interested in? She's gonna be like, I don't fucking know.
Aurelia just pulls up her sleeve and reveals like 4 different friendship bracelets. What? I'm popular. You guys have done this whole getting me out of my shell thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know you talked about like influencing Aurelia and stuff, but there are some positives as well to kind of that back and forth, which is like, absolutely, she originally started as a much more, I don't know about like dark, but much more like brooding character, but through, the playtime, Enos and the others have gone out of their way to, like, expand her social circle, have her build relationships with other people, and, like, now it's a very different dynamic.
I'm glad. But yeah, get up to the Dragon Week. Like I said, like, definitely thinking, like, tomorrow, it's definitely going to be, the sauna scene, probably a small scene up into the Drake's Eye. Oh,
actually, a small scene at the Curia or something like that, because you're going to need to talk to the High King about stuff.
Yes, I am glad that we got one last, because, well, you were mentioning, like, there was anything we need to bring up to the High King? I was like, do we? And I was like, wait, no, we're going to need, like, official documentation, or at least copies of official documentation to take to the Fogvale, so they have a copy of official documentation.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure an initial, like, letter or charter or something would have been laid out, like, the first session when the Viceroy thing was decided, but you were like, no, I need some copies for the Fogvale to keep. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely a thing you can and should request. And then I was like, that'll be fun, because that'll go through the Lord Chancellor's office, because he's the keeper of the seals.
Mm-hmm. And then probably,
we'll probably wrap
I
on
forget.
Feast.
Yeah, we'll probably wrap on Feast. I'm trying to think, did we ever talk about,
Nico,
like, the reveal?
Wait, go for it.
Did we ever talk about revealing the Fogvale? Does the world know? Have we lit the fires?
I am pretty sure that this is the thing we talked about with some other stuff, because we were talking about, like, whether or not sending Harpuya messengers and things, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Prince Alias broached it to the team, but I do not remember a plus or minus in there, because the Fogvale discussion was the great goop time, the great gas leak, where, like, that's when kind of, like, not just but, like, everybody's frustrations kind of, like, peaked and valleyed, ebbed and flowed really hard, and that was when we were kind of like, okay, we need to refocus. So some shit is just for gore.
We should probably
people at home, feel free to correct me. I am pretty sure that the idea was that the High King definitely put it in writing about it, but I do believe that you did not want to go absolutely crazy and like formally announce the reopening, because you wanted to avoid the problem we've been talking about, which is flooding the countryside with adventurers. So I think that it's not like a state secret anymore, but I don't think the High King, like, formally stood on your front doorsteps and said, yes, Marquis Leslak Logi, he is now the Viceroy of the Fogvale, which is totally real. But don't go there. It's still a little bit haunted.
Then we might want to discuss at that one if we want to do some sort of, like, official announcement and or when.
Because you, like I said, you will definitely have the paperwork. Like, the king probably drafted up a charter and resolution and stamped it when you decided that, and you can get copies from the Lord Chancellor. But like I said, I don't think he did, like, a proclamation in the streets. So, you have proof that Leslak's authority as the Viceroy is real. It's seen, witnessed, signed. Mm-hmm. And you guys were able to discuss after that meeting, like after the Privy Council meeting about the Fogvale, you were able to discuss with your bannermen again about your plans for the project. But you haven't, I'm pretty sure we haven't formally announced it, because like I said, you guys wanted to make sure you were working on this grand, getting burpy. You were working at least on this grand company thing, and we can make sure we're keeping that one in mind. And you already talked about, going by boat and teetotaling up all the supplies, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just say, rather than have you guys figure, I'll just say kind of like what you've got loosey-goosey from, like, donations and stuff, and then, if you want to carve out any particular of your own supplies to make sure they're included, you can. But also, I talked about how, like, you guys have gone pretty ham this year on trying to make sure nobody starves in winter.
We have.
Especially because you guys are going to be away part of the winter. Most of it, honestly. Actually, maybe like a 50-50. I have talked about how, because it's a 13-month calendar, there's a flex month. Yeah! Recently, your winters in Tyne have been longer, so that might be, it might be 4 months of winter instead of 3 months of winter. Because, again, it's technically supposed to be lunar months, so it's, the bonus month at the start/end of the year is either an extra month of winter or an early month of spring. It's cool.
I'll have to double think.
Yeah, you can send messages on email and to Lady Cressida. And Cressida has a journal, so she can send stuff back to you.
I'm definitely thinking about, like, if we should request when the king make an official proclamation. Like, I wouldn't want to do it. I'm definitely, like, after, like, maybe sometime in the late fall when people don't want to fucking travel.
Sounds like a good run, yeah. Like obviously he's gonna meander his way back to Lamp Clair, but like that could be something you could ask the full King's Council, in person to voteth on, because there were a couple of proxies in the big meeting.
Yeah, no, that's something I could bring up. Like I'll bring it up in character, and we'll see what happens.
You'll have it, because you're gonna ask for copies of the documents. You can also ask about proclamating.
Mm-hmm. But yes, no, if we wait till like the end of the fall, people won't not be so inclined to, brave the winter to do the thing. They'll probably wait until the spring.
Yeah, if you do it in fall, you might get some of them to start like stockpiling for spring, but not actually hop the border.
Yeah.
Which could work thematically.
Well, it's one of those things. We won't be able to keep it a secret forever.
No.
So.
And like I said, it's now technically I don't want to say open secret, but it's no longer top secret, right? Like,
yeah.
You are able to officially discuss with your bannermen about it, and you have given them like marching orders to prep for the opening of the Fog Veil. But you also told them like the Fog Veil is not yet open. It is a process. We are beginning the opening process. That reminds me. Everybody, make sure to jot down for me that I think the next core steps. I have 3 technically, and it's the third one I need to remember. I've already worked out the what I have in mind for the tour parts. If you guys have any landmarks you absolutely want to make sure that the prince sees, you guys can still hit me up, but otherwise I think we got some decent ideas to run through some stuff. The actual Fogvale visit part, which I have planned in my head and I've been thinking about, but we have not actually written down yet. And then the third thing I need to remember is I need to, after the Great Fair, and I assume a little bit of recruiting, because you guys are full of money, for Aramina's Brain Trust, I need to retabulate her research tab again.
I would appreciate that. I keep thinking about it and I keep forgetting about it.
Also, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, oh shit, I need to remember. Because that was one of a couple of things I talked about with Axe a while ago, as well. As like, definitely. I need to make sure to update. Yeah, you're in a new month. That's the one why I need to think about it, because that will probably be like either on or at the Grand Tour. No, I think you already spent the months because you invested in stuff leading up to. That was something I did discuss before Summer Court started, using the original month's points to actually make sure you had certain projects funded ahead of time. But you're ending Summer Court on a new month, so that'll probably be something you either do immediately after Summer Court ends or during the tour times. You have Aramita in the lab working on some stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys want to, because you haven't done it yet, you want to make sure, though, you finish funding her self-propelled cart, because that's something you want for the upgraded Shadow Pass.
Yeah!
You guys basically want to build automated, mechanical trams to run up and down the pass and stuff like that. But then there's also there's a couple of other things she's got in the bin, and because you found several other people to add to her squad, she has, further inventions to work on as well, stuff to work on with ballistiques and other things going on. Probably some project to mass produce the fire extinguisher, because you guys love the fire extinguisher. But yeah, like I said, that's in my immediate projects to finalize summer and get into the early fall plan. And you guys will have a team meeting about that. And then also at the team meeting, I'll probably force you to tell me or lock in. Like, I think I have the idea, but I need you to lock in the order of Ivory Islands versus Egg Trip. I think Egg is first, just because you want to make sure that and Monster Hunting. So I think it's Egg Trip first and Monster Hunting last, but like they need the team to discuss it and lock it in, because I have to write them in order.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of writing if I have to write all 3 of them and then let you guys pick. So we'll lock that in. But Rain good. We like Rain.
Rain good. Rain. I do like Rain.
Listen to number 72 out now. Anything else Rain related? Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little parched again over here.
Yep. Well, I've been talking a lot. But I do think that's probably everything. I don't think there's anything else on my docket.
Yep. If that's Rain and you have nothing else cropping up, which sounds about right. I know you've talked about how like you've like caught up on all your gacha games in like a rush over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
And I also don't have anything to add. I mentioned that like in the gap between the server slam closing and the game actually coming out, I've kind of been in a fugue state in my marathon. We don't need to be talking about Resident Evil 6. Watch the Resident Evil 6 streams. I cannot sell enough to you, chat, how much Lucky and I are losing our fucking minds. It's so crazy that like we're working on RE6 and like RE9 has come out and it's like a generational banger.
Yeah.
It's Capcom's third generational banger in a row for Resident Evil. It's crazy. Actually reminded me, that was something I was going to bring up in an earlier conversation, but forgot because we got distracted by some other stuff. But, like, I'm pretty sure RE9 was, like, tied for, like, one of the top audience reviews on Metacritic for a little bit, if not overall, still. Like, crazy good scores. I'm still debating how I want to approach RE9. Like, I've talked about this before, right? Because after 6, we can do 7.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take a break ski, it'll probably be spring, so we could do Okami, but that'll also probably take a little bit. So we.
I wasn't thinking of going
jump
straight
to
into 7. I was actually thinking about Revelations 1 and 2.
Yeah,
like, there are a lot of Resident Evil side games. There's also a lot of side games for Resident Evil.
And Revelations are interesting as well. I'm less familiar with that one. Yeah, I think X said it. Rev 1 is supposed to be good. 2 is a little shakier. But like I said, I'm very familiar with 7. I've watched several people play it over the years, and I've played some of the demos, and it seemed pretty cool. And like I said, I'm pretty familiar with the beats. 8 was one of those things. I played the demo, and I think I was always like, well, maybe I'll get around to playing it if I have time. But I have not played it, and I have not watched anybody play it all the way through. So, like, that's one of the ones where I'm like, I don't know about that one. Like, maybe I'll when we get started on streaming 7, I will start playing 8, or maybe I won't. You know, maybe we'll both see it free together. But 9 is one of those things. It's like, I'm like, game's pretty cool, but we are gonna probably get to it at some point. So I don't know. But yes, please watch us stream Resident Evil 6 again, if only so the you can witness the absolute consternation we have every single week. Like, you think, like, we talk and the way we act, you think, oh, we're done with it, right? And then it's like, oh, no. The next stream, we'll find new horse shit to be absolutely poleaxed by. Whether that's the mechanics being kind of, like, frustrating and weird and non-intuitive, or just straight up dumb, like that Turbo Giant BOW fight that we had to redo because that guy was weird. Or just the fucking Deep One Spec Ops ninjas we ran into at the end of last stream. Like, I'm pretty sure they're just more Javo, but they're wearing, like, octopus head masks and dressed in black spandex. I don't know how else to describe them. God only knows what fresh hell waits for us next time. So, check out the stream. We'll be back on Fail Betrayal. We're gonna do we're actually gonna do Protoplants now because there was a scheduling with Dallas, so we're locked in. We'll be back for Final Fantasy 14. Maybe we'll do some more Variant Dungeon. Maybe we'll do some other stuff to get some crystal paste. And as we say, we'll be back recording Let's Talk FGO on Friday again, which will be probably probably not too deep, but we'll get some initial impressions on the Ordeal Call. Oh, actually, I should also say, because it works as a patron plug as well, you know, when the week gets started, going to be working on Wanted for Mary Alter as well. So there will be a Wanted out, you know, for new servants. And we'll probably do so you didn't get that 5-star to talk about Hassan on Friday as well. So new story. That's always a great time. Let's see, we already talked about movie night. Yeah, so I think that's most of what we got going on. So I think we can wind it in. Anything to say before the outro, Lucky?
Nay.
All right. He said his piece. So, hey, if you're watching this video on YouTube, give it a like. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. We don't get a lot of comments, but it's great to see your comments. Talk about everything. You can join our Discord as well to watch movie night with us and to engage in other conversations about FGO and other things. To post, you know, memes in the Pokopia font and stuff. Join the Discord. Consider subscribing to the channel to get all of our YouTube videos and streams and stuff, including Wanted when it comes out. Make sure to ring the bell so you always get notifications for streams and things, and video premieres happening in the middle of the night, probably. You can also join our channel memberships to get membership badges and emotes and support us fiscally. And, like I said before, you can support us also on Patreon, where you can get access to topic polls like Fanservant Friday, new poll already up. You can get access to video releases like Wanted, our servant review series, early. At the entry level, you can get access to audio downloads of this podcast and all of our other audio features, including our actual plays, like Rain. And our highest tiers, you can listen to us record Let's Talk FGO live every week. And at our highest tier, get an on-air shout-out like Adam Harp, Lex G, Call Me Zed, Carlos Dragon, JDV9000, Rise of Kenji, Rogarman, and Charvor. Thank you very much for supporting patrons. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time. Shit, I was trying to turn one of those, gender-neutral greetings into a gender-neutral goodbye, but I can't do it.
Nope.
Goodbye, demons. This has been your boy.
Yeah, boy.